Hi, guys. So today we're going to be going through a omnibus memorandum of law in support of a motion to dismiss. It's filed by several of the defendants in the second lawsuit that Terrence Dixon opened up against Fat Joe, Joseph Cartagena. I know you guys are going to correct me on my pronunciation of things. There's a lot to unpack here. So we're going to read through some of the background, get you guys caught up to speed if you've missed it. I've also linked some previous streams on the Fat Joe and the flip side, the other case. It's going to be a lot. And I think even just a quick look, if we take a quick look at the table of contents, at a summary of the arguments, you'll see why this is going to be a ridiculous stream. Jim, Happily Angry Lawyer, is going to join us. He's getting some coffee and then he's going to be on to go through this with us. So that's going to be an extra good time. And before he gets here, let's get through some housekeeping. So last year we did a really fun thing. We bought a ton of kids' Christmas gifts. And you guys were asking about it yesterday or maybe the day before. And I haven't had the same year this year that I did last year. Not YouTube specifically, but with my day job. And to switch it up a little bit, I think what we could do instead, if you guys are on board, there's something called Clear the List. And this is a hashtag trend on X. And it seems like it's mostly teachers that are trying to get needed items and now some Christmas stuff for kids in their classroom that might not have things otherwise. So if you guys are down to do that, and we'll let the chat decide. And we'll do today's experiment. I think you guys would be down, but I don't know. You let me know. Today, we could do a different one every stream. I think we could start by helping Mrs. Wiggins. Mrs. Wiggins, she is a teacher in the Tampa area. She teaches math and she teaches science. And she has a Clear the List ornament, her Thanksgiving one. Yeah. She wants to buy a board game for each of her students to take home. So I opened up her Amazon list. There isn't that much to get through. And I think we might be able to knock it out. So I'll start the stream off. We'll get one of these going right away. But you see how short this scroll bar is over here? That's all she's got left to knock out getting a board game for every one of her students in her classroom. So they can have some family activity during the holiday season and get their minds going. So right here, I'm gonna do the Mario because I'm a Mario fan. And I'm gonna drop the wish list link to you guys. If you guys want to participate, I'll keep it pinned. And we'll see where we get by the end of this. How do I copy and paste this wish list? Can someone in the chat let me know if help teacher Miss Wiggins get gifts, get board games for her students? Can someone in the chat just let me know if this link that I just put in the chat lets you see the wish list? Because if that's the case, we'll pin it up on YouTube and it'll be there for the whole chat. I'm going to get the Mario one right now. I'm going to check out in a different window. That way I'm not showing it on screen, but we'll see that it's gone once it's bought. So let's see. How do I complete this order? Well, let me add more than one quantity, so maybe it won't disappear from the list. Let's see. All right, it's letting me go to her address. All right, so that link works. So we're going to pin it. And I completed the order. I don't know. Let's see if the Mario disappeared. So I think it might let us order more than one quantity of certain things. Oh, okay, it says here. Needs 3, has 1. So they need 2 more of the Marios. So there's some duplicates here, like there's 2 for the Monopoly. So it's a little bit more than I thought was on the list because some of them have multiples, but still, let's chip away at it. Let's get Miss Wiggins' kids some fun games for Christmas. And then Darcy Darcy in here dropping 20 gifts. Darcy said we're starting the Christmas party early. So big thank you guys. If you just got a gift, make sure you're saying thank you to Darcy. Darcy, I hope you're doing well. Thank you for gifting. We're going to pay it forward throughout the stream, making sure we're ticking off some of these gifts. Again, that link is going to stay pinned. I got to get over to YouTube. StreamYard doesn't let me pin things. And then we're going to get into this lawsuit stuff, right? We're going to have this fun gifting, and we're going to also look at some dramatic court filings and attorney sparring. And I think we get some spicy footnotes. So, the trifecta of things that I think all of us get together to enjoy. Let me get this chat. And I think Jim is here, so I'm going to throw him on screen.
Wait.
Oh. All right. Give me a thumbs up. You got to do a thumbs up like really high, though, because there's an overlay that blocks you. Is that a thumbs up or a thumbs down? It was like this. I can't hear you, by the way, just so you know. I only see you. Let's put it in the chat. Super struggle streaming here. And let's see. I don't even know. Okay. So that should be pinned now, you guys. That URL is now pinned. Big thank you to Darcy. We're going to get Darcy in the banner sponsoring this stream and getting us all in the holiday spirit. All right, Hal, now I'm looking again. Are you good? I can't read lips. Just go like this. All right, we have a Hal in the building. So
okay. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
You sound good.
I was listening to a Key and Peele sketch because Jackie Johnson was doing something sketchy, and I wanted to hear the "Where's Jake Quellenat" sketch from Key and Peele. So I wanted to get that in before. It was really important that I get that in before the show.
Wait, when they pronounce Jacqueline and say Jake Quellen or whatever. Darcy also sent 3 games, you guys. So shout out to Darcy getting it going. And we'll pop back over and we'll refresh this throughout the stream. We'll keep throwing some more gifts down the ringer for Mrs. Wiggins. Look at Miss Wiggins. She looks like a great teacher. She's out here getting board games. I love great teachers. I think every kid needs a great teacher. So we're gonna try to... Is your dog all right? I think that was approval for Mrs. Wiggins.
It was. He's very happy right now.
So there we go. Understandably so. With that being said, you guys, quick background on this hot mess that's going on. So around June, there was bigger news, in my opinion, from what I saw. And I like to look at this stuff. So I try to follow the social media reactions and what outlets are covering things. In June, there was a big buzz about Fat Joe getting sued. And a lot of the commentary and even like the legacy media groups were not adding in the context that back in April, Fat Joe had already filed a lawsuit first. So this really all started with Fat Joe filing a lawsuit, not just against Terrence Dixon, but you'll see that the parties here... Let's see, where is it? The defendants also include Tyrone Blackburn and Tyrone Blackburn's lawsuit. So Fat Joe is suing Terrence Dixon and his attorney. And we went through that on previous streams. They're linked in the description. This other suit filed by Terrence Dixon, of course, written by Tyrone Blackburn.
I mean, was it though?
It was also written by AI, probably, based on all these other judges sanctioning Tyrone Blackburn in separate cases, entirely separate matters for using AI. I don't know. But he ends up suing a bunch of these, like Jane and John Doe companies. He adds in Erica Juliana Moreira, who we're going to hear a little bit more about today, but she was essentially like a manager. Fat Joe, of course. Huh?
Was she the one from Florida? The one
Maybe.
Okay.
Maybe. I have her. She did a separate response.
Okay.
Peter Torres, who you guys might know better as Pistol Pete. Richard Jospitra. this is where Rock Nation suddenly entered the building. We just decided, all right, we're going to also sue Rock Nation. We have a few other companies named as well. Rock Nation previously, through Alex Spiro, already responded with their own motion to dismiss. That's linked in the drive folder in the description if you want to go revisit that. But this became okay, if you're going to sue me and my client, I'm going to just file a giant civil RICO. And we're just going to see how it goes. And Hal broke down, he read it on his channel.
I couldn't even get through all of it because it was just making me sad. It was like funny, and then it was so bad, it just became sad by the end.
It was bad. And I remember reading it and just seeing a part in the middle of something that Tyrone Blackburn wrote. It was not him quoting something to respond to it. It was the writing in his filing. We stopped midstream. It was on my channel, and I'm like, chat, am I lost? And everybody was lost. And it was written as if it was Desiree from Rock Nation writing a defense as if it was her file, like she was filing a response. But it was in his complaint. And the only thing I could think of is AI just went off the rocker and started going off its own tangent, and nobody checked it. But it was within his complaint. In any case, the cases have now been consolidated. So just so you know the backstory on why sometimes it's Cartagena v. Dixon and other times it's Dixon v. Cartagena, it's because that additional case was filed, even though it's now supposedly consolidated. The updates are still going across two different dockets. In January, pin your calendars. We should have a transcript release of oral arguments where Tyrone Blackburn had to defend himself against requests for sanctions, but that transcript won't be available. There's like a 90-day time window on it. So we'll be looking at those transcripts to see how that was defended orally sometime in January. But today, we are going to look at how a bunch of attorneys, where is the...
We really need to highlight how stupid it was to bring Rock Nation into the lawsuit. Like, why would you do that? It's like if you're going to sue your neighbor and then you also like, I'm going to make this better. I'm going to sue the bank that has the mortgage on the house because clearly they don't have any money to defend this. Like, you don't bring in powerful people if you don't have to. So it's not just like bad. The AI is bad. Like the whole idea is bad. Like you just don't understand.
It's bad strategy.
Yeah. Like, let's get Spyro involved in this. That'll help my case out.
And I think I don't even need your answer. Chat, anyone that's followed any piece of this remembers how quickly Alex Spyro responded. Like, I think he just saw it and just rolled his eyes and went to a computer and went to work and just pitter-pattered because it was like it took him a couple days and he already had a response on behalf of Rock Nation.
Those are some of my, this is like inside lawyer stuff here. That's my favorite thing is when you have a co-defendant and you know the lawyer for them and you're basically on the same team and you can just call each other and be like, did you see this? Did you see what the city has said? And you can just like, you know, just kind of vibe on that for
the beauty of the 6-defendant YSL trial and their respective teams of attorneys. Also want to shout out to Martina Nem, who's been a member for 15 months, says random love for this awesome chat. And Kat, thank you so much. Darcy also said, and I have it on the screen, didn't he try to hit a process server? So he had his arraignment at the end. It was like October 29th. Pled not guilty. I think the next calendar date for that might be in January. So yes, that is a thing. There's criminal charges against attorney Tyrone Blackburn because he's alleged, he's being charged for attempting to run over a process server that Joe Takapina and Fat Joe sent.
The lore in this is deeper than like Lord of the Rings. I swear to God. There's like Pittsburgh involved somehow. I'm still not sure why.
There's so much going on, like so many trials, and it's just like to try to catch you guys up on some of this stuff. I don't know if it's possible. And there's like so much other stuff going on today, but oh yeah, and the reason we're doing this today and not the weekend is I remembered Ian Runkle of the Bailey. You guys remember last year, whether you heard about it on this channel or you already knew Ian, because he's a huge YouTuber. Every year, I think this is his 6th year, he does an Extra Life 24-hour fundraiser. It's raising money for the Stollery Children's Hospital. He has not created the YouTube stream, so I don't have a direct link. I can just link you to his profile, but that's going to be this Saturday. So I won't be able to stream tomorrow, and I don't want to interrupt that 24-hour stream by any means on Saturday. So that's why we're gonna do some Tyrone Blackburn, dissecting Tyrone Blackburn's arguments today. And this is his ex. Where's his YouTube? But I meant to shout that out at the beginning of the stream and forgot. And I think Tatum earlier I've been trying to catch some of the chats as we're going along. Tatum, I think it was, asked if we're going to continue to do this. So anytime I pop live between now and like a week before Christmas, because, give some shipping window time, I'll try to find like a clear the list, and that can be the theme. That can be how we celebrate the holiday season. We'll just find some teacher somewhere that needs something for their students, and we'll just pin it, and we'll see how we can help. So we will be doing more Tatum. Ian Runkle. All right, so Ian's YouTube channel is in the chat. That will be 24 hours starting Saturday coming up. So this weekend. I blew my mind. I had to double check because it's going to be the middle of November, and I'm like lost on time. I had no idea, but it's already happening. So this Saturday. Thank you, KP. Kiss and Pink has been a member for 13 months. It says, hit the like button, not the process server. Nice, KP. That's a good one. I love that. Oh my goodness, you guys. So let's do this. Let's do this, you guys. All the relevant filings are linked in a drive in the description of the YouTube video. So if you want to pull them up and read them anytime. And then, wasn't there a way we could make this bigger? Nope, that's us bigger. This one. Nope. Nope. Why are you big and I'm little? Well, we'll make it work. We'll do this one. We'll do this one. We'll zoomies. All right. So you see how they're putting both cases here, guys. So this was, again, the first one filed by Fat Joe in April. This was the second case filed in June by Terrance Dixon, with all of the filings being written by Tyrone Blackburn. And right here, you can see who's actually taking part in this. So it's almost all of the named defendants that aren't does. Rock Nation's not a part of this. Again, Spyro responded like within a few days. But here it's defendants Joseph Cartagena, that's Fat Joe, Peter Torres, Pistol Pete, Richard Jospitra, Erica Moreira, Sneaker Addict Touring LLC, and Slate Inc.'s Omnibus Memorandum of Law in support of their motion to dismiss plaintiff Terrance Dixon's complaint. So this is their response to the June complaint, the lawsuit initiated in June. All of these defendants join this together. Look at all these attorneys. And this is really, Jordan Sieve, I think, is the primary signatory on this. Takapina and Stiegel are working with him, but he's the lead counsel. He's the one in the New York court. And Takapina and Stiegel both have pro hoc vice admission representing Fat Joe. So there's that. But yeah, tons of attorney names here.
Yeah, and these aren't like small time firms either. These are, I recognize all of these names.
No, big names. So table of contents. And guys, when there's a table of contents, it's a nice way to get a summary of what you're going to look at. But I think more special in this case, this particular motion, is just reading through the headlines that we're going to cover as we go through this. This is 68 pages. If you have no idea what this is about, and we take these arguments at face value, listen to how crazy this sounds. So, 1, Dixon alleges he was Cartagena's creative partner from 2005 to 2020. So apparently we're going to have issues with this. 2, Dixon claims he continued collaborating with Cartagena despite never receiving the royalties or full performance fees he falsely claims Cartagena orally promised him. 3, Dixon stops working with Cartagena in 2020 and begins harassing him. And remember, Dixon's the one that filed the complaint that's being responded to. We're up to 4 here. Dixon retains counsel. This is my favorite one.
It's my favorite too. I'm glad you said that.
Dixon retains counsel who transforms a simple royalty and performance fee dispute into a sprawling sex trafficking, human trafficking, and RICO complaint involving Cartagena, his businesses, and associates. So we're definitely going to read that argument in full. We're going to read that one in full for sure.
Yeah, it
And
really
in
grabs the
case,
eye.
yeah, yeah. And it's like, it's a lot of words, but it's also really succinct. Sure,
Yeah.
this is 3 lines long, but this says a lot. And if you didn't guess, this counsel, this refers to Tyrone Blackburn. This is who they're talking about.
Yep.
Dixon files his lawsuit against Cartagena, his businesses, and associates. And you know, some not so real associates too. And then they're going to get into the arguments here. So the complaint is a prolix shotgun pleading that obscures the asserted claims in violation of Federal Rule of Civil Procedure 8. We've got 2 with a bunch of sub-arguments here. Dixon fails to state a plausible or timely claim under the TVPA. Dixon's TVPA claims are timed barred. Dixon fails to state a plausible sex trafficking violation. I've never seen this where you get to a 3rd indentation for at least not in a case that should be as simple as this should be.
Yeah, I mean, definitely in motions to dismiss, you want to keep it as simple as possible because, I mean, the idea is that there's no factual dispute. So if you need like 100 pages to say there's no factual dispute, there probably is a factual dispute. So usually they'll be simpler. But I mean, this might be an exception because
this table of contents reminds me of how you read the complaint. When you were reading the complaint, this is like your bullet points as you were going through it. Like, there's no standing here. You're not stating a claim. Even if all this was true. Like, this reminds me of your stream.
That's right. That was right. Because he wasn't the one that was getting trafficked. He was talking about like other people. He was like, I was there while somebody else might have been getting trafficked.
Or I heard of it later, years later, that somebody 12 years ago experienced something.
Yeah. That's right. It's been so long. I didn't realize it was June. But yeah, I remember that now.
Yep. So, and a lot of the same things. He's failing to state a plausible violation. He's failing to plead venture liability, fails to state a plausible or timely claim under RICO. Because again, guys, this is one of the arguments Tyrone Blackburn wrote about in this complaint on behalf of his client, Dixon. He was alleging civil RICO. The RICO claims, time barred. Again, another Dixon lacks standing. Like, fails to plead an enterprise, fails to plead relationships among those associated, fails to plead longevity. And if you missed the Alex Spiro filing, one of the exhibits that Alex Spiro included was a series of email messages where Tyrone Blackburn was messaging representatives for Rock Nation and saying things to the effect, these are not exact quotes, but to the effect of, we know you didn't know about it and we know you weren't part of it. But yet Tyrone Blackburn had just filed this complaint alleging civil RICO with Rock Nation participating, being, a member, part of the enterprise, engaging in all these things. But he's sending these emails saying, we know you weren't part of the thing we just accused you of being a part of.
Yeah, that's not how you do that at all.
It's just wild.
It's like he's trying to do the thing where you talk to them before you file the complaint. And you're like
a detective would interrogate somebody, and you act like, we're not saying you had anything to do with it, to get you to open up more.
Yeah, exactly. But you don't, because like they're in theory, Rock Nation would be trying to avoid like the headline, right? But you don't cause the headline and then ask them because they have no reason to compromise at that point because it's already out and they know they can win the case. Like,
well, and also cops can lie in interrogations.
Yes.
But you're then signing off when you submit something to the court, you're signing off on the veracity. Yeah. So there's a major difference there. And I don't love the way cops will do interrogations, but it's really a separate comparison. So, but look at this. All of this is just a failure to state claims. There's issues. And again, go check out Hal's reading because it'll read just like that table of contents.
Yeah, I mean, I will say that writing these are either like really fun or really not. I imagine this one was not because at least for me, it's not exciting to write something that is going to take a ton of work, but you know you're going to win and it's not that interesting, but you still have to like
It's a
write
waste
all
of
the stuff.
time.
But also, if you're really mad, it can be fun because you can just like, it's like therapeutic to just like scream at somebody in writing for 70 pages.
Look at this.
That is like 12 pages of citations. I counted.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. And we keep going. We keep going. So here we're finally, and we're going to get through, we're going to skip some of the preliminary stuff, but we do, for anyone that doesn't know the background, I always think these things give a good summary better than I can explain it. And we got spice. So Terrance Dixon's complaint. Again, Terrance Dixon is Tyrone Blackburn's client and co-defendant in the case first initiated by Fat Joe. Terrance Dixon's complaint is the latest in his calculated campaign of defamation, extortion, and malicious harassment designed to destroy world-renowned musician Joseph Fat Joe Cartagena's reputation and business. Dixon worked as Cartagena's hype man. Oh, you had a comment already?
I like that sentence. There's the alliteration. Calculated campaign designed to destroy. I like that.
I was watching Emily D. Baker's coverage that the chat had recommended on the attorney issues with Imani Ellis over in the Cardi B, the civil case. Yeah. So Imani Ellis's attorney, and her chat was doing like, if they were going to write the request for sanctions motion, like what alliteration would they use? And the chat came up with like 12 terms in a chain. It was a great time. So you should do that. If you ever need help coming up with ideas, do a live stream. We'll help you.
Can you imagine if that ever got entered into like a hearing, though, me asking chat for like advice on writing the motion?
But it's not legal advice. It's just verbiage.
That's true. I mean, I guess given what I'm fighting against, it's like
chat or AI.
Yeah, that's fair. People, just to say this, people don't realize how bad like AI is at this point, especially ChatGPT. People are like, oh, it's close. Like, it's not close. It can't read. Gemini's a little better. Like, I use it for proofreading, but like half the stuff I'll say is wrong. Chat will be better than AI.
And we also have, I just saw a huge drop of 10 gifted subs from Amy E, you guys. I saw it because you guys are showing Amy love in the chat before I even saw the gift. So thank you, chat, for already saying thank you. And big thank you to Amy E. I just put her in the banner and realized I didn't put the banner back up. So there we go. Big thank you, Amy E. Hope you are doing well. And I saw that Steph also shared Amy's link. So Amy and KP also shared it. Amy has a channel where every morning, really, she's been doing these premieres. We get together, we watch these body cam footage. Sometimes it can be kind of stressful, but for the most part, it's humorous. There's like funny things that go on, and it's always really enjoyable. So come check that out tomorrow morning if you're going to do one next week, and come hang out with Amy's crew. It'll be a lot of familiar faces over there. But thank you so much, Amy. But we've got Dixon worked as Cartagena's hype man from 2005 through 2020. So what's the issue with this? Well, in that 15-year period, as well as for the 5 years after they amicably parted ways, Dixon never raised any issues or sought any additional compensation from Cartagena. Then, in early 2025, Dixon began to falsely claim that Cartagena should have paid him more for his hype man services and never paid him royalties that Cartagena supposedly orally promised, despite more than a decade passing since Dixon first learned of these purported injuries. To me, that's a red flag. Yeah. This is a little red flag. When Cartagena refused to pay money to Dixon that he did not owe, Dixon hired Tyrone Blackburn, an attorney who's been admonished and sanctioned by numerous judges for improperly filing cases in federal court to garner mediation attention, embarrass defendants with salacious allegations, and pressure defendants to settle quickly.
That's supposed to be media attention?
I think media attention, but...
Maybe? I don't know.
I think garner attention in any case. I think it's...
Okay.
But it should be media. But in any case, the garnering attention, it didn't hinder, to me, I get the point.
My suspicion is that the attorney who wrote it was doing a mediation brief immediately before writing this, and his fingers just like typed mediation. That's something I would do.
Well, it's weird because I think you might be right because this is Jordan Steve. So Fat Joe's attorney, that's the main signatory. So if he's writing this part, is this the right? Yeah, this is the Cartagena. There was an issue, I think at the end of October, where Tyrone Blackburn wasn't responding to anything. He had just been told that he can't use AI, and all of a sudden he's not responding to any deadlines anymore.
That's the best lawyering
And
he's done.
the AI lawyering or not responding?
Not responding. That's actually because not responding is 0, right? But he's like,
It's not a negative.
yeah, he's like down here when he talks or writes. So not responding is as good as it gets.
It might have been this. Hold on. Let me pull this up and see if this was it. Oh no, this was the do you guys remember hearing that Tyrone Blackburn sent like a letter to the court asking the court to take into consideration the dismissal of the UMG, the Drake and UMG lawsuit, as if it was relevant to his case? So that's what this actually is. This is basically Fat Joe's attorney saying this isn't applicable. Has nothing to do with the subject matter, the material claims of either of these cases. It's just a celebrity that had a case dismissed, essentially. That's the only comparison. But there was another letter. Maybe one of these. You can see this is like there's letters going in and out of this court. But one of them recently in the last few weeks was from Jordan mentioning that, hey, we've sent over requests for mediation and settlement talks to Tyrone Blackburn. And not only have we not gotten a response, but we also want to ask the court to make sure if Tyrone Blackburn responds now or decides to respond through the docket, that he respects confidentiality criteria rather than just filing something on the docket for the mediation, the media attention.
Yeah.
So that would have been right. I think you're right that's probably what was on his mind when he was, if he wrote this part.
There are certain words that I write so much that I can never write. Like I'd write receiver a lot. So anytime I started to write receive, it would just end up receiver.
Doing the muscle memory. Yeah. Let's see. We've got and next part of this sentence, also about Tyrone Blackburn, an attorney who's known for filing admittedly false claims, espousing absurd understandings of the Racketeer Influence and Corrupt Organizations Act. So our RICO, knowingly misrepresenting case law. This is long. Engaging in conduct falling below the level of professional diligence required of attorneys and violating his duty of candor to the court. True to form, Dixon and Blackburn heaped layers upon layers of outrageous and false allegations on Cartagena that well went beyond the supposed wage and royalty claim and sought to extract money from Cartagena by first defaming him, then filing this lawsuit. With a footnote. Dixon and Blackburn's misconduct are the subject of Mr. Cartagena's complaint against them, which is pending before this court in the coordinated action. Because again, remember, they're consolidated together. So we have a footnote reminding them of this very thing.
I like the espousing absurd understandings.
That is alliterative.
It is, yeah.
Because it's the same vowel-ish sound.
Yeah.
They're showing the music you could write lyrical artistry. Let's see. The complaint contains knowingly false and outrageous allegations against Cartagena and many others having nothing to do with Dixon's alleged entitlement to compensation for past services rendered and royalties. Now, this is so important because, again, the complaint filed in April by Fat Joe is before any litigation was initiated otherwise. So I think it's a slippery slope now if you're going to try to cram a bunch of stuff in a June filing that repeats a lot of stuff that you said before litigation started. How would you then rely on litigation privilege to protect those statements? Those statements already exist outside of what would be covered by litigation privilege. And I think I question if Tyrone Blackburn understands that. Or if he thinks that if I just put it in a motion in a court filing, I've seen other judges say, hey, well, this is litigation. This is protected. I don't think I don't know if that's processed. So.
You know what? This actually reminds me of there's an issue that I don't know if it's been litigated yet, but to maintain privilege, you have to obviously keep it secret, right? You can't like tell other people about this thing and then claims privilege. But there's a question: is if you like put something into AI, like if I take something that's privileged and put it in Chat GPT, is it still privileged? And I'm not saying that applies to Tyrone Blackburn, but I am saying that it applies to Tyrone Blackburn.
Well,
So
and I think there's other issues there because that data goes to retrain the AI.
yeah,
So, I mean, who's to say that the next person doing a search on whatever respective AI GPT
yeah,
wouldn't ask a question about a case and get an answer that's derived from information that was supposed to be privileged?
yeah, yeah. That's why a
I
lot of
don't
law
trust the
firms.
companies to not pass along the information for their training.
Yeah, yeah. That's why a lot of law firms are trying to develop like proprietary AI so they can use it without risking privilege. That's
The
the main
problem
reason.
with that is I bet a lot of them are going to go the route of white labeling an existing company, and then that information isn't going to be contained the way they think it's going to be contained,
Yeah, for sure.
because it never is. It never seems to
Yeah,
be. Oh, that's a big issue.
yeah, yeah,
So, dang. Well, I can imagine that not going well, and we'll see a rising number of concerns about that.
yeah.
Robert
That my
Freund,
favorite. Yeah,
we a lot of us talk about him all the time. He's an attorney over on X that just it's like 3 a day now at this point. He
it's so
files
many.
like opinions, decisions, rulings, sanctions, reports, complaints about some type of filing or attorney that filed something that's obviously using hallucinated citations because they're using AI to do their work, or they're having a non-lawyer do the work, and there's a whole bunch of layers. But it's like his volume of content and stuff that he's able to, hey, there's another one, is like increasing
Yeah.
his
Um,
daily issues. So
did you watch the Ninth Circuit one? I posted a link to the oral argument. It was a Ninth Circuit case where it was between the government and it was an immigration case. So it was between like the immigrant and I think it was Pam Bondi, but it was INS. And they did not request oral argument. And then the court set it for oral argument just sua sponte on its own. And then they grilled the attorney who used the AI. And he denied it, like hardline denied it. And then eventually they got him to crack. He was basically being cross-examined by the Ninth Circuit and eventually admitted it. And then he's like, oh, it was a non-attorney who drafted it. And he
a
probably
lot
used
of
AI.
them, a lot of them are blaming like the intern, but
It's
you're
not even
still
an
supposed to
excuse.
supervise.
It's
Like,
irrelevant. I mean, it doesn't matter.
yeah, you have to supervise. If you're the one signing the paper, like you have to be, you're verifying what's in
Yeah.
it. Like that
Yeah, that's
doesn't
the
that
point.
doesn't work. Guys, I'm dropping Rob Freund. I almost want to purposely mispronounce his name as Rob Friend because he's awesome. That's his X link if you want to go check out and I swear it's like more than one a day now. There's just always some
Yeah.
AI issue going on somewhere. He also posts a lot of other interesting like civil
Yeah.
litigation cases as well. So great person to follow, and usually provides a link to the filing, so
Yeah.
you get the full picture.
Okay. That was one more thing. Then I'll shut up about this that I find really interesting is courts have started to call out the other side now for not noticing the AI because that means they didn't do their jobs either. Because you
Before
should
they
interpret.
rule, going and weighing the analysis.
Yep.
I
I think that needs to be also seriously addressed because I don't say just as bad, but it's pretty close. Because you're billing your client for that time, you're not even reading the cases that are cited. That means you're not like trying to develop arguments to the best of your ability.
Yeah, counter arguments. Although that kind of creates the bind of, if you're representing somebody with limited resources, for you to do the extra work, you'd have to bill them more. And now, unless you're relying on, having the
Yeah.
foresight that we can file for sanctions and be awarded sanctions for
Yeah.
the bill hours I put into this, it's, I get that there should be discernment on all sides and there should
Yeah.
be ethics and integrity on all sides, but the
Yeah.
shifting passing the buck can become a financial burden unnecessarily for the other side with no
Yeah.
guarantee of, you know, repayment.
Yeah. Definitely more of a
Oh,
case by case on like the other side.
again, a lot
Huh.
easier when you have big corporate law firm power named as a defendant who can invest the time to respond appropriately. So if you're
Yeah.
like little Joe Schmo named as a defendant when you've got like Rock Nation, and I'd argue, not to say just because someone's a rich celebrity that they should have to shell out extra money to fight frivolous complaints. When you're a co-defendant with someone that does have the money to do it, I think that's a
Yeah.
beneficial place to be.
Yeah. But I mean, in this case, they're clearly built like this motion costs probably well into the six figures. So like, if they had not say there was a motion of this length that didn't check the cases, that would be inexcusable. But if it's just like a quick response, that'd be different. But you can't write like a 70-page motion and not have read the others brief carefully. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely case by case for sure.
Do you want to pick some games, Hal? So these are going to be, I'm going to do one, and then Factual Lie, also known as O'Bailey's because of this YouTube @ name, and Purple Paradox Lady Trucker. Good to see you guys. You guys both got the purple going on. Are contributing to get games. So let's get one for each of their contributions, and I'm going to do a third. So Hal, you pick out 3 games.
3 games?
Well, let me refresh it because in case any of them cleared out. Okay, so this is recent. Scroll a little slowly.
Well, there are some people that lack a clue that I would like to give one to. So let's start with, wait, is Clue gone?
Wait, was Clue? Oh, right here.
Okay, no, Clue. Okay.
Okay, we've got a clue.
Okay. Let's see. There's a lot of twisting of facts, so I guess Twister works. Let's see. There's got to be trouble, right? You get into trouble.
All right, that one's all. Yeah, okay. So let's do, can I add a quantity here? They need another trouble. All right, I'm going to do 2 troubles, double trouble, like Rocket Power. Nice. No, is that, yeah, Team Rocket? Not Rocket Power, I meant Team Rocket. Team Rocket's what I meant. Double trouble, make it double. So I'm going to add a quantity 2. So we're going to do 4. We're going to get 2 troubles.
Oh man, there was a case I was reading like the other day. And there were 2 nicknames. One guy was named Double Trouble, and the other guy was nicknamed Murder, and it was a murder case. And the witness kept referring to the guy as Murder instead of by his name.
Murderer.
You can't do that. Then she called him Mr. Murder one time because she like started to say the name and then messed it up. It was fantastic.
Oh, and Trouble has a 75-cent coupon. So good thing we got double of that one. All right, so let me check this out. Shout out to Miss Wiggins.
Actually, no, wait, those are separate cases. The Mr. Murder and the Double Trouble.
All right, so that should be completed. Woohoo! Nice. So, I mean, how many they needed 5 well, that's Twister. They needed 5 troubles, they needed 5 twisters, so there might be room for more as we go.
Clues, get them in trouble.
And shout out again. Thank you, Factual Lie. Thank you, Purple Paradox. And thank you for your great game board curation there, Jim. Thank you, guys. This is always fun. Super fun. Oh, Aaron says Monopoly, but you can only land on go to jail.
That's good.
Oh, my goodness. Oh, I love that. All right, so we were here. So the complaint contains knowingly false and outrageous allegations against Cartagena and many others, right? So I swear that's just trying to get under the umbrella of litigation privilege, but I don't think it works like that. These include unrelated tax fraud claims and unspeakable acts such as statutory rape, forced labor, and sex trafficking involving people that Blackburn admitted are not his clients. So this is what Jim was mentioning earlier. There's a whole standing issue. Like Dixon does not have standing for these claims.
Man, imagine alleging a knowingly false sex crime. Imagine. Who would do that? Okay, I'm sorry. I'll stop now.
Oh, that's okay. Sorry, I was looking over at the chat because dear reader, normal people, and I didn't ever think about this. I saw signs at Aldi recently about pennies being phased out. But apparently so this is Pink Slime. If you guys remember old name, if you're looking to gather resources to help people gather pennies, nobody wants them. They stop making them and businesses are already phasing them out for cash and then put that cash where it's needed. So that's cool to know. I never thought of that.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'm gonna have a bunch of pennies just sitting around collecting dust. Um, so let's see. We've got the complaint couches these false allegations under sweeping federal claims under the RICO Act and Trafficking Victims Protection Act. It also, and we're gonna shorten that to TVPA. It also asserts facially deficient state law claims for Dixon's original, although well after the fact, compensation dispute, including fraud, unjust enrichment, quantum merit. What does that mean?
It's a quasi contractual remedy. Basically, if two parties think that they have a contract, but for some reason it falls through, or like the contract is void or whatever, but one side gets the benefit, you can essentially enforce the contract as if it was valid. Basically, it's a equitable remedy. Basically, it's just there's a contract that fails, and you try to make it fair.
And like that's like discretionary, not just like a guarantee that it's someone's claims about the standing agreement are going to be enforced.
Yeah. It's kind of a fallback option. Like for example, if you have a contract claim, you can't also have a quantum error claim. So if I say there's a valid contract, you can't also bring a quantum error. So it's definitely a backup. Like don't let me get. I shouldn't have to take the hit because this contract failed, basically. But yeah, it's not something as solid as the contract claim.
Cool.
It's actually pretty similar to unjust enrichment. In California, there's a lot of overlap between the two.
That's cool to know. And how do you actually pronounce it?
Yeah, you said it right. Quantum error.
Okay, I didn't remember how I pronounced it. I just wung it. So, Merowit. Okay. And constructive trust. These claims are brought not only. Oh, you want to explain that too?
No, I mean, not really.
Is that just like
it's
a
really
trust account?
misunderstood. No, it's basically you. It's hard to explain in this context because it doesn't make sense, like fundamentally. But you'll see it a lot in like fraud cases where, like, say I defrauded you of a bunch of money, and I have the money. The court could impose a constructive trust and essentially say it is as if I was holding it in trust for you.
Okay.
But so I dealt with that one a lot, but in a completely different context.
I mean, that sounds very California.
No, that's federal. It was like SEC, like.
Well, I mean, like people in California would run into that issue more often, perhaps.
What does that mean? No, you're right. That's true.
You know,
Yeah.
we've got these claims are brought not only against Cartagena, but also against Cartagena's artist management company, Rock Nation, and unrelated business manager, Richard Juspitre, something, acquaintance, Peter Torres, attorney. Oh, okay. So Erica
That's
was
the
an
one.
attorney.
Yeah. That's the one
Or
where
is.
he like, I think he made up, remember, I think I covered this in my stream. He used an image of her bar page that said she wasn't licensed, but then I looked it up and she was licensed. So I don't know if he used like an old image or if he like made one up.
Oh yeah, because it was one of those filings where he did and it's a very good. It's reminded me of the Guess Who, where they have the faces. You gotta like put the face down. Clue Junior, I think, does the same thing. He puts all the pictures of everybody, so like us regular people out here can go through and say, "Oh, look at the people he's talking about. I remember that person." But yeah,
sprawling and this is alliteration heavy. Ample alliteration, you could say.
Oh, down here. So, yet, despite the sprawling and scattershot nature of Dixon's 775 paragraph complaint, so Spyro, guys, when he wrote his motion to dismiss, he kept repeating that it was a 775 paragraph complaint that he was responding to. So,
it's numbered wrong, but it's probably 775. Because remember, they like switched numbering formats at the end.
Because he probably copied and pasted one section and didn't redo the formatting.
Oh man.
Nowhere in there does Dixon actually claim to possess a single contract, document, text message, or writing otherwise evidencing Cartagena's alleged promise to pay him the money he seeks or the royalty credits he believes he deserves.
I gotta say, there's been this trend lately of like these incredibly long, like a 775 paragraph complaint. I've had like $1 billion Ponzi scheme cases involving like hundreds of people, literally billions of dollars going back and forth between like shell companies nowhere near 775 paragraphs. That's not what you do. That's insane. It's so
It's just
long.
not necessary at that
No.
stage. Like, get the involved parties, block off any potentials with John
Yeah.
or Jane Doe, business does, and
Yeah. Like you're not arguing the case. Like it's you're just saying generally what's going on here.
I was looking back at the beginning of the chat. I want to shout out Angelica, who went and purchased a game for one of the students. So thank you, Angelica. So definitely awesome seeing the community come together. Always love to see it every Christmas season. Destined to Be says I'm a crafter, so I'm gonna get the Build a Snowman kit. So
Nice.
are you getting one for yourself also? So shout out to Destined to Be as well, throwing into the mix here. Oh my
I guess I
goodness.
could have just let you keep reading because it's like literally the next sentence.
Oh yeah. Well, that
My
was,
bad.
I mean, Spyro said the same thing in his motion to
Yeah.
dismiss that nor does the complaint contain a short and plain statement of his case, just the opposite. With nearly 800 paragraphs of contradictory, confusing, and opaque allegations, the moving defendants have been forced to expend resources decoding Dixon's
Decoding Dixon.
allegations.
There's so much alliteration. Contradictory, confusing, opaque allegations. Decoding Dixon. I
Oh
love
my
it.
goodness. The
This is
word choices are good. They
yeah,
they
they are
had to have gotten
really good.
together and said, you got to sprinkle this word in there.
Yeah.
And while the complaint can and should be dismissed for these reasons alone, we've got 50 more pages, you guys. Each claim is moreover facially deficient under Federal Rules of Civil Procedure
Uh,
12b6.
yeah.
Okay.
Yes. 12b6 is there's no basically plausible claim on which relief can be granted. There's like 12b1 through 9. One's like I think subject matter jurisdiction. Then there's other stuff, but yeah, it's
Cool. Isn't this awesome
12b6 is
having
kind of the
Jim?
catch-all.
Isn't it cool having Jim here, you guys? Putting his brain to work. Because I steamroll through these citations, like the whatever code or statute or sometimes like case citation that we're going through, unless it expounds. Sometimes we just speed through them. So you are definitely great to have on board here to explain to us. Okay, so this is just addressing TVPA. So Dixon alleges the moving defendants violated the TVPA because Cartagena, but no other moving defendant, purportedly compelled his labor and involvement in commercial sex acts through threats of serious harm in contravention of federal forced labor and sex trafficking crime statutes. This outrageous claim is false, and while it must be accepted as true for the purpose of this motion, it is fundamentally deficient and must be dismissed. The TVPA claim is time barred, so that's issue 1, because Dixon fails to allege that Cartagena undertook any such actions violating the TVPA, the statute of limitations, in the last 10 years. Right? So issue 1. Issue 2. Dixon also has not plausibly alleged that Cartagena violated the sex trafficking statute because he has not alleged that Dixon engaged in, let alone was coerced into any commercial sex act, or that Cartagena obtained Dixon's labor or involvement by means of threats or serious harm. And whereas forced labor cases typically involve certain hallmarks like squalid or otherwise intolerable living conditions, extreme isolation, threats of legal process such as arrest or deportation, and exploitation of the victim's lack of education and language barriers, this case has none. Indeed, Dixon himself admits that he is an adult male with over 15 years of experience traveling for work and managing security, including as Cartagena's bodyguard. He does not allege that he was forced to live in intolerable conditions or in isolation, or that Cartagena otherwise capitalized on any idiosyncratic vulnerabilities. To the contrary, Dixon alleges that Cartagena intentionally left him while traveling abroad. I miss that. But that would mean
Yeah,
you're not even there to be forced to do things or forced to make someone else do things.
I think that was when he was in Spain. I remember this because Dixon said that he was with French girls in Spain, and he just never explained like why the details were included or how that came to pass. And I really wanted to know the background because he specifically said French girls, but he was in Spain, and it puzzled me at the time.
I
It probably
mean,
never happened, so that's probably
Spain
why.
and France, you know how like Europeans, you guys have it so well, I mean, unless you're like locked by
Yeah,
water.
Yeah.
But
It's
you could just like hop on a train and go to another country. So
it's the
Spain and
Schengen
France,
zone.
there could be French girls in
Yeah,
Spain right now. So that's
true.
how it works. Oh. All right, so they leave abroad in circumstances where Dixon could not provide any labor or services to Cartagena, and that Dixon eventually discontinued associating with Cartagena altogether. It strains credulity that a reasonable, in quotes, person in his shoes, with the means and know-how to, quote, escape his supposed forced circumstances, would have continued performing labor or sex acts under the scenario Dixon alleges, as is required to show a violation under Dixon's theory of the case. Now, this is the type of thing that in a claim for someone that would have standing, like the purported victim, the direct victim, attorneys would normally you'd want to tread lightly, you'd want to have some decorum. You don't want to act like you want to defend your client and advocate for them, but you don't want to just straight up victim blame, especially in a case that's going to be in the media
Yeah,
and the public can look at what your attorney's writing and say, Fat Joe's victim blaming because it's in these filings. But this is such a degree removed because we're talking about
yeah,
Dixon and Dixon's claims about others that I think they actually get to punch equally across the
yeah,
plane.
yeah. I say also like this is more decorum than what like Blackburn used in describing it to begin with. So like that bridge has been burned and collapsed and whatever else you can do to a bridge. Like that's
Uh,
I can't believe some of the what like I'm not going to say it because I don't want video like, to exist of me saying what was said, but like it
I
was
mean,
so over the top.
the complaints are linked in the description in the drive folder. You can check it out there. And I believe I wouldn't be surprised if some of it still pops up on Terrence Dixon. I don't know if he's still been doing it, but somewhat recently he was still posting these things on Instagram. So, I mean, it's not like they're gone. It's not like the things he
Yeah.
was claiming or saying are scrubbed from the internet. It's there. So, oh man. Now we're going to get into RICO, guys. Everybody's favorite four-letter word. Dixon's RICO claim lists 24 predicate acts encompassing a wide range of allegations, including sex trafficking, attempted murder, witness tampering, and tax evasion. This claim warrants dismissal for myriad reasons. Dixon's allegations regarding who violated each purported predicate act and which racketeering statute each implicates are inconsistent. Oh, I read that wrong because of my intonation. But they're inconsistent with each other or otherwise vague, and therefore fail to give adequate notice of his claims.
Yeah.
Dixon, moreover, lacks standing under RICO because the complaint fails to show how any of the alleged predicate acts cause harm to his business or property. Even if he had the standing, the RICO claim is plainly time-barred under RICO's 4-year statute of limitations. Under established Second Circuit precedent, Dixon's claims accrued upon his actual or inquiry notice of his purportedly unpaid compensation and royalties in 2008, when Dixon's first purportedly co-authored tracts were published, and accordingly, when he first was not paid, meaning his claim would have expired 4 years after such notice, so 2012, a decade plus before he filed this complaint. That's a long...
Yeah.
And even if timely, Dixon fails to adequately state the existence of such an enterprise or any pattern of racketeering activity. The complaint instead relies entirely on conclusory allegations and recitations of law concerning the relationships between purported enterprise members, the timing of their involvement, and the actions underlying the various purported predicate acts, thereby failing to establish the necessary elements of a RICO violation. And again, civil RICO, you guys.
Man, I could just feel my agitation rising when I heard pattern of racketeering activity.
Just going back to the days.
Oh, I'm just
Going
thinking
back to
like
the days.
over at Act 151. Oh my goodness.
Maybe we need to do like a
145.
palate cleanse of like a properly litigated RICO case.
I was going to do a stream where I just ranked the funniest predicate acts in YSL, but I thought that might be too disrespectful.
We're too long.
That too.
But I put it on your docket, your YouTube docket.
What's some other
That's a good
Georgia?
one.
There are some
That's
good
a good
ones.
one.
There are some really good ones.
You can co-opt the Christmas giving, and every time we make it through a set of ranks, we can throw in another gift, a game board or classroom snacks. It'll be worth it. We'll justify your time. Crazy.
It'd be like Chutes and Ladders, but there are only chutes.
I
Just a
think
similar Fulton.
for fraud claims, guys, we're going to skip the readings of this, but the same thing. It's, it's not properly pled. It's beyond the statute of limitations.
Oh man,
Fraud
we're
claims
on
are
page
based on,
4. I need to shut
yeah.
up.
Well, really 21 because of all the table of contents. Equitable claims. Yeah, there you go. There they've got the unjust enrichment that you mentioned spelled out. So
Yep.
then they say at bottom, the complaint is more telling for what it omits than what it contains. Any memorialization of the purported assurances underlying all of his theoretical claims, dates of anything italicized, other than vague, nonspecific year-long ranges, any fraudulent statements or descriptions of writings or communications, any description of how Dixon was unable to leave the work environment he derides as coercive and manipulative, or any actual relationship between Dixon and any of the defendants other than Cartagena. This is because the facts as pled by Dixon himself demonstrate that Dixon worked for Cartagena for 15 years, never lacked the ability to leave at any time he wanted, and even failed to complain for several years after he parted ways with Cartagena. Thus, once the complaint's convoluted and conclusory, there you go.
Love it.
Chat, we got the alliteration. Allegations are carefully examined. It becomes unequivocally clear that Dixon has failed to state any plausible claim for relief. The fatal flaws inherent in his claims mandate that the complaint be dismissed with prejudice. I kind of want this to be dismissed if I was Dixon, because, like, think about what this opens the door of what he'd have to produce. I mean, maybe he's not paying billable hours, but, and maybe
Yeah.
they
I don't
just
know.
wouldn't respond appropriately, which means it would lead to a dismissal anyway.
Yeah.
But this is a lot that would be necessary. All these long time frames.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so here we get into, and again, this is according to the attorneys that are penning this omnibus memorandum of law in support of their motion to dismiss. All right, this is statement of facts, doesn't mean proven indisputable facts. These are facts at issues, and this is the facts as recited by the defendants here collectively. That unless otherwise noted, the moving defendants summarize the following facts from the complaint. While the moving defendants dispute the allegations of wrongdoings for purposes of this motion, all non-conclusory factual assertions are assumed to be true. So they're taking on, we're going to argue this, giving the benefit of the doubt, and we're going to tell you why it's still a flawed complaint. So first, guys, Dixon alleges he was Cartagena's creative partner from 2005 to 2020. I think we can skip through a lot of this. He claims that he co-authored some of these songs. Are any of these good? Yeah, these are kind of long. It's footnote 3. You want me to read all the song names?
Of course I do.
Okay. Okay, we'll just read this, you guys.
No,
Cartagena.
Okay.
Yeah. So he claims that he co-wrote dozens of songs. Dixon claims he co-authored the following recordings. All the Way Up, Congratulations, Money Over Bitches, Ice Cream, Cupcake, 300 Brolic, No Problems, Winding on Me, Blackout, Dirty Diana, Porn Star, Okay, Music, Haha. This reminds me of Brian Higgins. Haha. Haha. At the end of every text message. How did we get here? I chopped up All the Way Up, Crack House, All I Do Is Remix Verse, Red Cafe Remix, Coca Baby, and Get It for Life. So
yeah, there's some really complex lyrics in some of those songs. Like when he says lean back like 15 times in a row. Oh wait, lean back.
But you know what? If it's catchy, I mean, give people their credit. But I mean, you don't just. The issue, I'm sure, is right. Let's see. And they submitted. They put all of this on on November 10th. Jordan C. filed. I think they said something.
That's so funny.
I think they said something because they're submitting the writing credits with each of them. I think I read in another little bit somewhere. I think it's covered in this motion further on.
Yeah, okay.
So I think that was the purpose of filing them individually. And there was something to the effect of like we didn't file the actual, we don't want to like file copyright and make it public record, so they're only filing like the lyrics and credits or something like that and not the
Okay.
actual full recordings. So I forget where I saw that, maybe somewhere
Yeah.
in the 68 pages. So they're citing to that declaration and those exhibits included with that declaration from Jordan Sieve. Dixon alleges that Cartagena orally assured him that he would receive a 15% ownership interest in every track to which he contributed.
This doesn't even make sense, by the way.
How would that even be like possible?
Because, like, if you have, okay, yeah, that too. But also, if you have like a 15% ownership interest, that wouldn't equate to 15% of gross earnings because that
Oh,
would
the
be like
next line.
pre-cost. Yeah.
So,
Because,
guys, so Dixon represented that this oral argument was a 15% ownership interest in every track to which he contributed and 15% of gross earnings derived from those songs. And the reason that's an issue is because when you're speaking of gross earnings, that's before any other payouts,
yeah.
costs, expenses, like any EBITDA is considered. And with these songs, Fat Joe was part of a label. Fat Joe wouldn't even have been the one in control of making this,
Yeah.
like, it wouldn't even be his. It can't be a valid and enforceable contract if he's not in the position to
Yeah.
make that arrangement.
Yeah. It would make more sense as a fraud claim, I guess, if anything.
Or even correcting like 15% of his earnings, but wording it
Yeah.
this way, and this is cited from the pleading, from the complaint, you need to have this verbiage correct. You can't just, oh, oops, I didn't mean 50% ownership or 15% of gross earnings derived. I meant to say 15% of whatever Fat Joe took. You have to have this stuff correct. Which I don't think that would be believable anyway.
Yeah.
Like, I wouldn't just promise a blanket 15% of
Yeah.
anything to somebody indefinitely long term.
Yeah.
And on the receiving end, I wouldn't trust that as just an oral handshake for 20 years.
Yeah.
But okay. He claims Cartagena or his agents would include Dixon's interest on letters of direction or split sheets sent to performing rights organizations, which would then distribute Dixon's pro rata royalties. Dixon all, and I think this is the type of thing. So why is it only 2 songs then? That's why we have this footnote spelling out it's all of this.
Yeah.
Then why are we only getting these claims of 2 songs that we didn't, that wasn't part of those song names up there in the footnote 3.
Wait,
So
are
then
those songs?
Dixon, huh? What?
Are those? I don't think are those songs. I thought those are like terms of
Oh,
like
I don't
contract
know.
terms or something.
Like documents, so we're referring to this is the split sheet
I think so.
document.
I don't know the music terminology, but that's what I thought it was.
Okay, you might be right. I don't know. Split sheets, my brain went to like some like bedroom themed song.
Oh
So
man! Wow.
so I just thought it could fit right in with the theme here, but I think you're right now that I'm looking at it, that this is just the name of certain types of documents. So that makes more sense. A little bit more sense.
Yeah.
Dixon also alleges that although he did not know it while working for Cartagena, booking and performance agreements allocated about $3,000 per show for Dixon's hype man role, plus a per diem of about $100 per day, collectively performance fees. So where's the documentation that made you find this out after?
That one annoyed me too because that's not even relevant. Like Dixon alleges the agreements allocated money for his role, but that doesn't mean he's party to the contract. There was a contract between Cartagena and like whatever the touring company was.
You'll have this stipend. You'll be able to have
Yeah.
some assistant go and get you your preferred water bottles and snacks for the back room and like all those
Yeah.
little things.
Like, money's allocated for it, but doesn't mean you have to pay it out. You just need like something else. I don't know if they argue that, but still. Oh,
Oh, and even funnier, notably, notably,
that's something I would write. I love it.
Dixon's does not, because he cannot, reference any documents or correspondence reflecting Cartagena's purported promises. So, next one, you guys. Dixon claims he continued collaborating with Cartagena despite never receiving the royalties or full performance fees he falsely claims Cartagena, quote, orally promised him. Dixon alleges he was not listed as a co-author of the recordings and received no compensation in connection with them. And they're citing the complaint. He further claims Cartagena withheld or underpaid his performance fees and subjected him to a challenging work environment, describing a threat to cancel his, quote, return flight home sometime after he expressed discomfort with a coercive sexual dynamic. Whoa. I think this is what I read. So a request to take judicial notice of the copyright registration information.
Yep.
So although Cartagena argued in the action that they should strike or disregard certain purported copyright records that Dixon and Blackburn sought to introduce for their motion to dismiss, Cartagena did so because the dates of the publication of the recordings have nothing to do with the allegations in the Cartagena action. So I think that's why we're filing this, but don't.
Okay.
That's why we have that long, a bunch of exhibits of the songs being sent to the court. Despite this, Dixon continued to work for Cartagena, performing at more than 200 shows. That's quotes. He alleges that although he tried to leave on multiple occasions, though he never explained what or when or how he tried to leave, in quotes, Cartagena used coercive tactics like begging and pleading with plaintiff to stay, and stating that plaintiff is all he has on his side. According to Dixon, when Cartagena's begging began to fall on deaf ears, Cartagena told him that nobody leaves Terror Squad in one piece. Womp womp. Next,
Oh,
Dixon's.
God. Do you remember that picture they used of the guy who supposedly got like sliced up by a terror squad, but they used a picture of the guy just making a funny face? Do you remember that
I
one?
remember seeing the picture. I did not remember the corresponding argument.
Yeah, I went and found a picture of the guy. He just was like making a funny face. He was like smushing up his face. But I found a normal picture of him. He just looks like a dude. Like he actually looks pretty good for his age.
Oh man.
I can't
So
remember the guy's name.
you can't trust what you see someone put in a filing. That's why I always find it necessary, and not with you guys chat, but sometimes like when a celebrity that has a stan community, like a younger community that it hasn't really like ever read a court document before, it's like a learning experience at that point for them. It's always a learning experience. But younger kids that are interested in like their celebrity suing somebody for the first time or they're responding to somebody, there will be screenshots of the court filing and it'll be like highlighted that it's a statement of facts and they'll point at, see, this is a fact, and they'll like pull a quote out from underneath the statement of facts. But yeah,
that
just
happened.
because something's in a complaint doesn't mean that it's a fact.
Yeah, I was gonna say this actually came up in the Jimmy Winfrey. He's in his he had a motion that his lawyer wrote. It was in the same context. It was one of those accepting all things as true, these facts, and people were saying that he was the one saying these things, but like you have to accept them as true, and that's like a nuance that I think some.
Yeah, I remember that too, and it's hard to explain that. Like, it's a recitation.
Yeah.
So that way, that recitation is what they're going to base the following counter argument on that thing that they're reciting. It's not an admission just because it's in the text.
Yeah.
Oh man, hot mess. This is where we get the claim. We're going to address the claim that after Dixon stopped working with Cartagena in 2020, Dixon starts harassing Cartagena. So Dixon alleges he stopped working with Cartagena in 2020. He does not plead why he left. So remember, where we have this unexplained gap of this 5-year period, why are we bringing the lawsuit now? Conveniently, in the wee hours after Fat Joe and Takapina say, we're gonna sue you because you're extorting us. Like that was like a 3-day window. That's kind of very telling to me. In late 2023, Dixon published a series of Instagram posts, falsely in parentheses, accusing Cartagena of sexually assaulting a woman nearly a decade earlier. They attached these as exhibits to... Okay, they're saying that these were attached as exhibits to Cartagena's second amended complaint. He also made posts calling Cartagena a pedophile and alleging sexual relationships with underage girls, including a 16-year-old whom Dixon claims Cartagena dated for 5 years. In January 2024, Dixon targeted Cartagena's wife, sending a text to Cartagena's manager and publishing Instagram posts accusing both Cartagena and his wife of infidelity. Now remember, this is all long before any litigation was initiated. And I don't know when Terrance Dixon actually retained Tyrone Blackburn, but it wasn't as early as 2023. So this is what I was saying earlier. All of these things, all of these statements, especially the Instagram ones that's public, that's very public. Not sure you can just stuff that into a complaint and call it litigation privilege now.
No. I'm sorry, it's just so stupid. It just hit me right for a second. My bad. Okay, I'm good.
Dixon pleads that in 2024, 4 years after ending his relationship with Cartagena, one of Cartagena's former associates purportedly told him that Cartagena received $3,000 to $5,000 per show for Dixon's role, while Dixon was paid only up to $250 per show. The associate also allegedly revealed that Cartagena omitted Dixon's name from split sheets submitted to the royalty companies. In March 2025, Dixon posted online about the alleged underpayments. So we're all the way, this is this year now. This is back in March of this year. Dixon's posting online about these alleged underpayments, accusing Cartagena of a, quote, long history of stealing and robbing people, and referencing his own contributions to Cartagena's work. Cited in one of his complaints. And then in April 2025, Dixon appeared on a podcast alleging that Cartagena underpaid his performance fees and failed to pay royalties.
Hey, can you go back up real quick?
Yeah.
Sorry, I was messing with my lights. Yeah, this is the same thing that I was talking about earlier. Cartagena receiving $3,000 to $5,000 per show for Dixon's role is not the same thing as Dixon being owed $3,000 to $5,000 per show. Those are two completely different things.
And it's like through the grapevine. Like
you heard it through the grapevine.
we're not hearing from this associate.
Yeah.
And it's just, I don't remember if it was in the complaint, but it's just vague here. You know, they're not including the name. And that person's not named either, as like, wouldn't you think if you're alleging RICO that the person telling you, oh, we had all this money, he made all this money, wouldn't, I don't know.
You'd think they'd check the bank statements.
This is the one, guys. I think this is going to be, and the reason I saw this headline is because when I posted this on X yesterday, I did a search in page for Blackburn to see if they were going to call him out by name. Because again, in this, the complaint that this motion to dismiss is addressing, Tyrone Blackburn's not a party. This is the complaint that Terrance Dixon filed, and Tyrone Blackburn's the attorney, but it's not like the initial case where Tyrone Blackburn's a named defendant. So I was like, let's see if he's mentioned by name. And of course, his name is sprawled throughout this. But in doing that search in page, I got to this heading because it took me to here. And I was like, Dixon retains counsel who transforms a simple royalty and performance fee dispute into a sprawling sex trafficking, human trafficking, and a RICO complaint involving Cartagena, his businesses, and associates. And this is just a wonderful headline because it's like, you've got this issue over claimed, money that was due through the vehicle of royalties and performance fees.
Yeah. And
you want this money so badly that you're sprawling it into this huge thing that it's not. And the root of it is you want money. Like, that is what this headline is spilling out. And again, it's one of the things that grates me about this case is Dixon's complaint filing. I saw that get much more coverage and attention and buzz because Fat Joe was being accused of statutory rape. That's why it went so viral, is because celebrity being accused, something crazy, scandalous, heinous. And it was really being left out. I would say only 25% of the things I saw even mentioned or had a reply further down in any comment thread, any discourse that mentioned, well, wait, Fat Joe already initiated litigation claiming extortion and defamation against Dixon and his attorney back in April already. And I think that's a critical piece of the puzzle. We don't get this turning this into all of this until after Dixon and Blackburn are sued.
Yeah. Yeah. I also say, like, people were definitely reporting it as if it were true, like as if the allegations were true and that this was a serious lawsuit. I mean, there started to be like some pushback after like the first 24, 48 hours, but like it was definitely being treated as true by a lot of people. And when I read it, I was like, this is unserious. It's just not even no evidence. It's like negative evidence being presented, but it's salacious. You can get clicks with it.
And that's exactly what happened.
Yeah.
Fat Joe, it was bigger news. The second lawsuit from Dixon was much bigger news, and it was Fat Joe rapist was what people were buzzing about. And it's complicated because you see this is getting drawn out. These are long filings, but the initial story, it's so hard to get people to be just as aware of the follow-up. And for other stories, any retractions, any redactions, any corrections, because who's still following along beyond the, oh my God, another celebrity scandal. So this stuff doesn't make as much noise. It just doesn't get put out there as much. And not for nothing, but I think a saving grace for Fat Joe is that this is coming from an attorney who doesn't have a good reputation.
I was thinking the same thing. Like, if Tyrone Blackburn's like the second biggest star in this case.
Yeah, and it's like, I think Fat Joe is really lucky because that makes it easier for people to even start to guess, like, hey, maybe we should look at this before we just assume that the allegations are true.
Yeah.
That grace might not be extended if there wasn't like a major red flag from the start here. And that's a scary thought.
Yeah, for sure.
So this is cool. It's, Brown in the chat says, as a Grammy nominated songwriter, that's awesome. Says, I'm tired of people thinking that artists pay our royalties. Those checks come from the publisher. So thank you for that tidbit. And that's awesome. Shout out to you. That was cool. I just wanted to pull that up.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So it's just like, why would the artist make a promise of royalties to somebody?
Yeah, because they're getting a split themselves. So it wouldn't make sense to
it
makes sense to do all the splits at the label level rather than.
Yeah, so something about it doesn't make sense. And I'm not in the music industry, but you would think that if Terrence Dixon has this 15-year experience, that he would have come across that knowledge in the course of those 15 years to understand that, hey, if someone's telling me that I'm going to get a cut, I should recognize that this isn't the person who's capable of making those promises. So for him to claim that in 2025, it just doesn't. It doesn't seem like a credible claim to me. So, let alone a sensible claim. But we got this long, sprawling case that this has exploded into. So Dixon retained attorney Tyrone Blackburn. Blackburn has a sordid history, the Southern District of New York. Okay, I think we're missing a word there. We got a footnote. Blackburn's misconduct has not been limited to cases in the Southern District of New York. In a case in the Western District of Pennsylvania, I think this is one of Hal's favorite judges because his name is really cool. Yeah. Judge William S. Stickman IV recently revoked Blackburn's pro hoc vice admission and sanctioned him $5,000 because Blackburn's conduct falls below the level of professional diligence required of attorneys. This was in the Jakes v. Youngblood case. So I linked to Pam Esquire, also known as Esquired, in the description of this YouTube video. She does a lot of content covering a bunch of different cases, but some of the stuff that she's covered in depth was the Jakes and Youngblood saga. So she's talked a lot about Tyrone Blackburn's mess in other cases. Love her content, learn a ton over there. She's an actual attorney and has a great channel and community. So if you guys want to go and check out more Tyrone Blackburn tea, or just check out another awesome creator, Pam Esquired, linked in the description of this video. But she did talk about, this was a back and forth defamation case. Lots of tea going on there as well. The footnote continues. In a case before the New York Supreme Court, Blackburn, which is not the Supreme Court in the way you would think of it, guys.
It is not.
New York Supreme Court is below the Superior Court. So
it's the lowest one.
Yeah, it's like where the trial courts are. So
Yeah.
misdemeanor court takes place in the Supreme Court in New York. Like your misdemeanor trial. Not any appeal, the actual trial. So, and that's only New York that does that, I think. I don't think I've run into another state that
It
does
better
that.
be, because
It
that's
better
dumb.
be. It is
It's
really
literally,
dumb.
that's not what supreme means. Like, what are we doing?
Who knows?
Riddle, your,
Oh, yeah, this is your part. So, in a case before the New York Supreme Court, Blackburn was sanctioned for violating his duty of candor and filing motion papers riddled with incorrect and false citations. Jim did not help them write this motion, you guys. And neither did Simone Hilton. Maybe she did. I doubt it.
Was
But
it
yeah,
riddle?
riddled with incorrect and false citations. R for riddled. Oh, wait, that was a footnote we were reading. When the footnotes are long, sometimes I just go to the next page thinking that we're reading the actual thing. So we get more.
Zunzarovsky. I like that.
Oh man,
Okay.
you're gonna make me read the citations because they have cool names. So we have that footnote with some examples, but then we have more examples in the body of the filing that says, for example, Judge Denise Coate found that a quote reasonable inference from Blackburn's pattern of behavior is that he improperly files cases in federal court to garner media attention, not mediation.
Oh. Yeah, that's
embarrass defendants with salacious allegations, and pressure defendants to settle quickly. And that's coming from, was this one of the employment cases he was representing someone in? This was one of the retaliation and firing. One of his clients was on the receiving end. So guys, remember, and this is great legal writing. So earlier on, we saw these attorneys who wrote this motion mirror this exact language. And when you're reading it at first, it just seems like, oh, the attorneys are using loaded language to make a point. But then you come down here and you get to quote verbatim a judge's findings of that exact behavior.
Yeah, I like the judge's writing too. It's very, like, this is passive voice, not in a bad way, not in an incorrect way. She's avoiding saying,
accusing him of that being the intent.
A reasonable inference. Not that it's definitely true, but you know.
It's something that if you heard her say it, the inflection I would expect in the voice was, seems to me like you might be.
Yeah.
And then doing the thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but this was, I think this was like an employment, like a retaliation after some type of firing case. Similarly, Judge Paul Oetken, and I think this was in the case with Diddy, criticized this one of the civil cases where Tyrone Blackburn was representing the plaintiff. Criticized Blackburn for submitting briefs replete with inaccurate statements of law, conclusory accusations, and inappropriate ad hominem attacks on opposing counsel. So Jones v. Combs.
You need to have appropriate ad hominem attacks on opposing counsel. That's my specialty.
Yeah, love that. Hey, so Judge Oetken probably likes the spice a little bit as long as it colors within the lines.
Yeah.
In dismissing an earlier RICO action, so this is not Blackburn's first attempt at civil RICO, Judge Oetken expressed his shock by this was crazy. Okay, we get the quote here, guys. Listen to this. So this is a different case, not this Jones v. Combs. There's a different case that Oetken happened to be the presiding judge over. He expressed his shock by Blackburn's statement that the defendant was, quote, presumed guilty of being a RICO criminal organization, and stated that, quote, any licensed member of the bar would espouse such an absurd understanding of the law is not just disturbing, but shocking.
Distributing.
Oh, distributing, but shocking. I think it was correct. I think it was correct in the order. I think this is incorrect in the typing.
Yeah, I think espouse an absurd understanding was in the first paragraph too, or some version of that.
Yeah, like they're mirroring language.
Yep.
And we're not just saying it because we're adding color to our arguments to help our client. We're saying it because a judge has already made that finding.
Yeah.
Which is just a awesome thing to be able to rely on. But yeah, just think of this. So in this instance, I swear this was the Nicki Minaj. There was like something alleging that Nicki Minaj and gang associates in Jamaica, Queens. It was something to that effect. That this is what this is in relation to. Blackburn's representation to the court, and it wasn't just in filings, it was also part of oral arguments, because this came from a transcript where Akin is like, are you serious right now? Like, your argument is that the court should just presume someone guilty of the thing that is part of your complaint that you need to establish. You want us to just crazy. So that was a bad one. That was a bad one.
Oh, that's funny. I wonder if the judge was like stomached for a second.
Like, you have to, like, is this for real?
Is this for real, y'all?
Where's the Whitaker? That was Kat that put that on the screen, not Jim. Blackburn sent Cartagena a letter on March 23rd, 2025, asserting Dixon's claims for performance fees and royalties, and demanding that Cartagena grant Dixon retroactive songwriting credit and monetary settlement. So this is 2025. So Blackburn came into the picture. This might be the first mention to Blackburn. So March 2025. Not any of that 2023 stuff, which was posts to Dixon's own Instagram account. So we're sending this letter now in March of this year. Dixon wants retroactive songwriting credit and monetary settlement. So we're already looking for a settlement. When Cartagena refused, Blackburn sent a second letter reiterating the demands and accusing Cartagena of having sex with minors, forced labor, and coercive sex trafficking. So this is why we have this. This is why we have this header that looks crazy, but it's only crazy because the incidents that are getting us here are crazy. So Blackburn then spoke with defendant Moreira, Cartagena's personal attorney, on April 23rd, 2025, emphasizing that he only wanted to resolve Dixon's royalty and performance fee claims. I forgot about this. Stating, quote, Homeland Security and all that stuff aside. Because previously, like I think 2 days prior, it was like April 21st, Blackburn was corresponding with Cartagena and his counsel saying, we can meet with Homeland Security and I'm going to have the accusers there. That was
funny.
Like, just assuming that representing that he could make Homeland Security set an appointment and be sitting there waiting for people to fly out to this New York Homeland Security office and just sit there and wait to discuss civil litigation.
Like Fat Joe walks into the lobby of Homeland Security in New York City and they're just like, what are you doing here, Fat Joe? Like, I just wish I could see that.
Oh my goodness. Right? Make it happen. Actually, let's rewind time and let's make that happen. Yeah, but yeah, the Homeland Security and all that stuff aside.
This is borderline like an ethical violation just by itself. Like threatening criminal action in a civil case for leverage, that's a major ethical violation.
And that's why, guys, that's why they're laying out that the demands were laid out twice. You have this demand for the fees and royalties, then an escalating demand, a second demand letter, and then we get this mention of Homeland Security and all that stuff aside. Which, if I'm not mistaken, in the complaint, the lawsuit that was first filed by Fat Joe on April 29th, they list out the correspondence over this like few-day exchange. And it's like texts, it's calls, and then timestamps of when the calls are coming in from Tyrone are all noted in that. So if you want to go through the deep dive of this timeline, that's all laid out in that complaint. But the point being here is you tried to get a settlement first, and then all of a sudden you're sprinkling in mentions of this criminal action, again, for leverage. Not good.
The most offensive thing about this, I just noticed this, is Blackburn uses whom to avoid ending the sentence with, but then he ends the sentence with anyway. With whomever he chooses to sleep with. It should be with whomever he chooses to sleep. So not only is he doing all the other stuff, but he's also using whom wrong. And that's pretentious.
Jim is cheating and reading ahead. He says, Homeland Security and all that stuff aside, my goal was to see if we can have some sort of resolution to the claims. So this is your intent. You're writing because you want this resolution still, and you're inserting this because you're still pursuing a resolution that my client has regarding to what he feels to be, his contributions that was not compensated. And that this is not about Joe's decisions in the bedroom with whomever he chooses to sleep with. This is business.
I'm glad he's taking those child sex trafficking victims very seriously.
Yeah. And he made it about it.
Yeah.
He after first try, he made it about that in second try, and then in third try we're like, no, it's not about that.
Yeah. But I mean, think of like assume that everything else that alleged is actually true, right? Like he's saying that he's not that sex trafficking children is it's his business.
Whomever, it's yeah.
And then there's the ending the sentence with preposition. That's just, I mean,
it's not about this, but let's rope in like every person you've ever been associated with,
yeah.
with no other, without personal standing, into what's effectively a countersuit, right? It was filed as a separate case, but it was effectively a countersuit. It was a response to Fat Joe's filing. So, it's about it when we want it to be our business.
Yeah.
Dixon files this lawsuit against Cartagena, his businesses, and associates. So on June 19th, 2025, more than 15 years after allegedly not receiving royalties and performance fees,
Yeah.
Dixon, through Blackburn, filed the sweeping complaint against the moving defendants and Rock Nation. So we're probably going to get the mention that footnote here that the court dismissed Dixon's claims against several John Doe individuals and corporations after Dixon failed to identify and serve them. The complaint alleges 7 causes of action, only 2 of which, claims under TVPA and RICO, appear to be brought against any defendant other than Cartagena. So again, the TVPA, so Dixon alleges that Cartagena is civilly liable because he allegedly engaged in forced labor and sex trafficking. And Dixon alleges that the moving defendants are liable because they benefited from participating in a venture that they knew or should have known engaged in an act in violation of the TVPA. RICO, the 24 predicate acts. So Dixon asserts RICO claims against the moving defendants for allegedly engaging in 24 purported predicate acts. Oh boy, we've got bullet points, guys.
Oh boy.
Predicate acts 1 through 3, 15, and 19 through 21. Collectively, the Dixon scheme.
You sound like Brown right now. What numbers are they?
Just out of order.
1, 17, 4, 32.
Well, this would be if they listed it all out of order. I'd be like 15, 2, 3, 19, 1, 21, 20. That would be how Brown would write it. Dixon alleges that Cartagena forced Dixon to provide labor, services, and sex acts while depriving Dixon of fair. Did he in the complaint allege that Dixon had to perform as well?
Kinda. I'd rather not. Yeah, sort of. I'm trying to think of how I can describe this without getting demonetized. Kinda. He's like, he was directing him to do certain things. Cartagena was telling Dixon to do stuff because he wanted to watch.
Oh, okay. So it was like a voyeurism type request. Okay. While depriving, and again, these accusations are all on the heels and through the ripe time period where we're hearing about other celebrities, and voyeurism is the nicer word, I would say, rather than the C word. I think the C word YouTube doesn't like. But yeah. So the time was ripe to start making these claims against someone that has a lot more money than you. While depriving Dixon of fair compensation. So it would have been okay. This all would have been okay if you were fairly compensated. And then attempted to, remember, it's not about who you sleep with, it's just business. And then attempted to silence him from speaking out. Where was the silencing? I have to go reread that complaint. It was not easy to digest, and I certainly don't remember. It did not stick. These predicate acts concern alleged forced labor, sex trafficking, witness tampering, coercion, enticement and prostitution, transmission of threats, harassment, stalking, conspiracy to deprive civil rights, sexual abuse, wire fraud, and falsification of records statutes. And predicate acts, and we have zero criminal actions arising from any of these claims. In predicate acts 4 through 6, 10, 13 through 14, I could just said 13, 14, 17, collectively the violent crimes scheme. Dixon alleges a series of attempted or actual assault, battery, murder, or other violent crimes against various third parties, including several undisclosed individuals and several prominent rappers. The purported the citation to the complaint, you're at like paragraph 590, 626, 672 is
It's
how
so
they have to
long.
reference because
It's
it's such a
ridiculous.
long complaint.
It's insane.
The purported crimes involved in this scheme include violent crimes in aid of racketeering, actual, attempted, and conspiracy to commit murder, assault and battery, menacing, coercion, criminal use and possession of a weapon, criminal solicitation, witness tampering, and conspiracy to commit a federal offense. The purposes of this scheme were to achieve and maintain dominance over industry rivals. Punish perceived. Weren't some of the allegations about people that were part of it? Part of like the friend circle? Punish perceived betrayals and solidify enterprise authority. I guess that would fall under that if you're not obeying or something.
Yeah, but
And loyalty.
it just, this is like getting to the facts, but like Fat Joe isn't even like at the top of the pyramid. He's like several layers below. He's not like Jay-Z. You know what I'm talking about? In Rock Nation. Like they're not, they're like under Rock Nation. So they're not, Fat Joe's not consolidating anything. It would be like Rock Nation, if anything. But that's obviously not true. I'm sorry. I'm just talking about why it's confusing.
We're just never going to make full sense of it, even if we
Yeah.
try to take it at face value. Only defendants Cartagena and Torres are alleged to have been involved in the predicates making up the violent crimes scheme. So they don't try to even say the big dog was top downing it.
Yeah.
In Predicate Acts 7, 8, 11 through 12, 16, 18, and 22 through 24, the laundering and tax fraud scheme, Dixon alleges that Cartagena used various companies, including Slate and Sneaker Addict, as a front for laundering and tax evasion, in violation of numerous federal and state statutes prohibiting money laundering, wire fraud, mail fraud, unfair competition and antitrust violations, victim retaliation, unlawful discriminatory practices, official misconduct, falsification of records, and retaliatory discharge.
That's so much.
Where is my little thing?
You know, it's funny. Like now that I think I remember, like he used evidence. He used like formal filings as evidence of money laundering, but that's fundamentally not what money laundering is. He's like, look at these clear records of money laundering. Like, no, that's literally the opposite. What are you doing? That's
there's
probably
one
800
standalone predicate act. Predicate Act 9, the interstate transportation claim. This is so on the heels of like Mann Act and Diddy conversation,
Yeah,
Diddy
for sure.
indictment analysis, because this complaint came out in June of this year.
Yeah.
So it just seems like we have the make sure you put in something about interstate transportation because big brain.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, Doug was talking about how broad the Mann Act was for a bit on his TikTok or YouTube or whatever.
I think a secondary issue is not just how broad it is, but it's broad and that gives, the discretion of when it's applied.
Yeah,
When someone actually bring charges forth under it. And it doesn't seem like there's consistency there, which is a whole separate issue.
Yeah.
But yeah, I also think when things are super broad, how do you defend against it? And now I have no doubt that that was a consideration. This is like a buzzword that's being heard. Let's sprinkle it in this civil RICO.
Yeah. RICO and Mann Act, really.
So the issue here is that, according to Dixon, Cartagena arranged and facilitated interstate and international travel of underage girls for sexual exploitation in violation of the Mann Act, disguising the travel as legitimate work, They were models, brand ambassadors, or music/tour personnel. Cartagena's purported purpose was to make the girls sexually available, often in exchange for proximity to his celebrity, promises of industry exposure, and financial dependence. This to me seems like cookie cutter. Like this is what's being the buzz topic for another celebrity in the music world at this like contemporaneously. So let's just transpose it over here and file a new complaint against this other person. Cartagena
Yeah.
purportedly directed others to book travel, provide cash allowances, and cover hotel stays for these minors while controlling their movements and access to resources, but cut them off financially once they became non-compliant. No other defendant is implicated in the interstate transportation claim. So he was doing this all by himself, and it's also supposed to be like I don't imagine if you're filing a civil RICO why you wouldn't put this uh, attribute this to other defendants as well.
Yeah. Yeah, this is very like, what is the enterprise? I mean, among a million other things, but
They go through fraud, about Cartagena allegedly withholding information concerning his performance and touring budgets, and affirmatively misrepresenting he would pay Dixon the royalties and performance fees. Quasi contract, Dixon alleges Cartagena is liable under the common law, theories of unjust enrichment and quantum merit. See, Meroit? I don't remember now.
Merowit.
Meroit. For unjustly retaining benefits from Dixon's services, including the royalties and performance fees, as well as the intangible, quote, commercial and brand value Cartagena purportedly derived from Dixon's labor. Because we all think of Dixon when we think of Fat Joe. That's what we picture for the brand, while failing to compensate Dixon for the same. But
You know
sorry,
what
if you don't have an agreement in place for an extraction compensation for future value, you don't just get to claim that.
True. You know what I think of when I think of Fat Joe? I think of the time that Shaq invited Big Pun and Fat Joe to like an event, and Big Pun and Fat Joe apparently ran up a $15,000 room service bill because they just ate so much shrimp, and Shaq's still mad about it. That's what I think about when I think of Fat Joe.
What, for real?
I might be wrong on the amount of money, but it was something along those lines. And
And
Shaq like took a bunch
specifically
of jokes about
shrimp,
it.
like they were just kept ordering like cocktail shrimp after cocktail shrimp
Yeah,
order from
yeah, it was like the hotel room service. They
uh,
kept ordering the hotel room service shrimp until, and then Shaq got the bill like days later. I think about that a lot.
Nem says it would be faster to say what's not alleged.
A lot of things aren't alleged, actually. I think nothing's alleged.
Well, we're just like stating
Yeah,
causes of action, but not actually alleging anything underneath them, right? But let's just any possible cause of action, just list them all at this point.
that's basically what Rico is anyway.
Man. Don't insult people that love Ricos. Um, all right. So, I mean, legal standard, we can skip through some of this. We can probably go right to more
Yeah,
interesting because a lot of it's just going to be you didn't even state a claim, things are time barred.
yeah.
Let's just
That
look
part's
for
gonna be.
buzzwords.
It's just
Each
gonna be.
claim, let's look for buzzwords. That's how we should do this. Let's look for spice. Each claim suffers a fatal flaw warranting dismissal with prejudice. The TVPA claim is facially incoherent. It's not just insufficient, incomplete, it's incoherent.
They're the insane, deranged ramblings of an unsound mind. What was
What
it,
do you
Shakespeare?
what's
A
your
tale told by
podcast
an
name?
idiot, full
What's
of
your
sound and
YouTube
fury.
podcast name?
Wait, which one?
Bent of Mind. Your Bent of Mind podcast. It's just you reading complaints like
Yeah.
Blackburn's. Oh my goodness.
Tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury, but signifying nothing. That's what I was looking for.
I
That's what.
wish that was in here. All right. Let's
Facially
see.
incoherent.
Okay, and
Yeah.
then pleading that Dixon was forced to work for Cartagena and engage in sex acts with others at Cartagena's demand, despite Cartagena's purported frequent threats to leave Dixon if his purported demands were not met. Dixon lacks standing. to assert his insufficiently pled RICO claim, and both the RICO and fraud claims are plainly time barred in any event. This is like the Russian dolls of arguments why this should be dismissed. The nesting
Yeah,
dolls.
for sure.
The fraud claims are moreover premised entirely on non-actionable statements or omissions and are otherwise insufficiently pled under Federal Rules of Civil Procedure 9b. The unjust enrichment and quantum meruit. I'm never going to say it again. As soon as I get something right, I change the pronunciation. Claims are plainly barred by the statute of frauds, and the constructive trust claim is not a valid cause of action. Accordingly, the complaint must be dismissed with prejudice.
That's the 9B thing is kind of funny, actually, because you have to be more specific when you're alleging fraud. Usually you can just allege generally, but with fraud, you have to get into more detail. And it's funny because like it's 775 paragraphs and they're saying there's not enough detail. And they're probably right.
That's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think that's why they emphasized it, you
Yeah.
know, especially pairing it with another judge's strong hint that it seems like you file these things for the media attention.
Yeah, for sure.
And you have 775 paragraphs and you're not even making a good faith effort
Yeah.
to make sure the complaint is properly pled.
Yeah, for sure.
So, ugh.
I think
Ugh.
that's something like that's a major red flag is when you have complaints that are extremely detailed because like you don't want to do more work than you have to. So you're just going to write like a competent complaint. You're not going to do these hundreds of pages of stuff that is, you know, inflammatory.
But
So
you
if
don't think of it that way if you're relying on AI.
you don't think at all. Actually, just in general, really, apparently.
Yeah, facially incoherent is a good one.
Yeah, it is. I'm stealing that.
Meruit. Oh, dear reader, normal people says, I know what you mean, Kat. I mess around with the word, but I think this gets mispronounced in different regions. So there's Giglio because of the Ben Affleck movie, but then there's Giglio and Giglio are other ways I hear it pronounced in different places. So what I would do if I was an attorney, and it's not always possible, right? But if I hear a judge pronounce something that way, I'm going to try to pronounce it that way. At least in front of that judge. And if a different judge pronounces it a different way, when I'm speaking to that judge, I'm going to try to match the way that judge pronounces it because I'm not going to correct a judge on their pronunciation. Not going to do it.
There are some words that I think nobody juggle out. Yeah, that's fine. Discovery. How does that work? Oh my goodness. Okay.
Yeah, we're looking for buzzwords. So this is the complaint is a prolix shotgun pleading that obscures the asserted claims in violation of Federal Rule of Civil Procedure 8. This is where you have to like state what exactly is the issue. Short and sweet, not 775 pages for us to parse and try to figure out what's coherent about it.
Yeah.
So a plaintiff must provide a short and plain statement of the claim, showing that the pleader is entitled to relief. Each allegation must be simple, concise, and direct, not facially incoherent. A plaintiff violates these requirements when, as here, the pleading is so confused, ambiguous, or unintelligible that its substance is obscured.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a very academic way to describe it.
Yeah. I think that's the point, right? Like you can do a short statement. You don't have to do the whole thing. You're just doing too much. Like say
And
less to be clearer.
he could have amended his complaint.
Yeah.
And I'm sure he would have gotten permission because, I mean, it's not something that's just denied for no reason.
Yeah, for sure. You're supposed to freely allow amendments unless there's like a really good reason not to. And if the other side asks for more clarity, you can definitely amend it and give it to them.
Yeah, or if like the needle moves at all.
Yeah, for sure.
But especially like Fat Joe on that side of the lawsuit, they've amended their complaint. So it would also be like, even if it was starting to get excessive, you want a balanced playing field. So
yeah, for sure.
Are we going to get in? So this dispute concerns alleged royalties and performance fees deriving from one purported oral agreement. Despite the straightforward nature of the claims, the complaint spans 157 pages and 775 paragraphs. It is filled with the relevant quotations, asides, and inflammatory rhetoric, but few, if any, concrete facts. Such a pleading amounts to a prolix and unintelligible conspiracy theory novel because it fails to provide. What is this
What case
from?
is this? I'm looking this case up later.
Yeah, I was gonna say I can already see it
Oh man, it's
because
not. Oh wait, call versus inter.
intercontinental exchange.
Okay, looking it up later. Is that New York? Yeah.
Yeah. Because it fails to provide fair notice of the claims and enable the adverse party to answer the complaint and prepare for trial. So that's coming from Call versus Intercontinental Exchange. They also, oh, different Cuomo, I think, because 1988 says Saludin versus Cuomo, if you want to check that one out, Hal, which dismissed 15-page single-space complaint filed by pro se plaintiff as unnecessary. This might as well have been pro se. As unnecessarily long and detailed given the nature of the allegations. So we're citing a case where a 15-page complaint
Yeah.
was kicked out. Blakely v. Wells, affirming dismissal of complaint spanning 57 pages and containing 597 numbered paragraphs because it was far from short or plain. I would die, guys. We will get together if this is dismissed just on the this is needs to be short and plain and no other issues addressed. We're just going to get live. We're going to have a little chat party. We'll obviously read the order. I'm sure it'll be a very short order.
Yeah.
What a day that would be.
Yeah. I'll say one thing, like for example, this is one thing California is good at is in state court, in almost every case, there's like a form that you can fill out that will be the complaint. And you don't even really have to write that much. You're just like checking boxes. It's like, do you have a contract? Yes. Like, what is the amount of the contract? Who are the parties? And it really does not need to be an elaborate thing.
Well, that would help a lot of people.
Yeah.
And prevent billable hour gouging.
Yeah.
The complaint also includes numerous inherent inconsistencies, rendering it impossible for the moving defendants to determine what claims are being brought against them. For example, is this a pronoun issue where it just says they and it doesn't identify? Paragraph 315 of the complaint includes a table entitled Appendix A, Predicate Act Summary Chart, Cartagena Enterprise. That's all a quote. That's how it's named. Purporting to list 24 different predicate acts supporting Dixon's RICO claim. These acts do not align with the narrative allegations of each purported RICO predicate acts later described in the cause of action. They probably made...
See paragraphs 504 to 759.
So they took 255 pages.
Yeah. That's the other thing with having so much complexity is you're giving them more to work with to get a dismissal.
An issue.
Yeah.
Well, I would imagine, so why would we include this chart to summarize?
Because
to me, it seems like we made a chart and that was what we used to get assistance in writing this thing that was way too long because we plugged it in somewhere.
No charts. You don't need charts.
If you need a chart, it's because you have a long and sprawling and not a plain and simple complaint.
Yeah. Like
we're reaching an era where we're moving the opening statement PowerPoint presentation into the complaints.
Yeah, it's purely media for media.
Yeah, so for the scrollers, right? They pull up the whole filing and they're like, wow, this is going to be too long for the average person to actually read. So let's give them something where they could stop the scroll and we'll just give them this nice chart with all of the most salacious things in 5 to 10 words or less per a line item.
Yeah.
And it'll go viral because all of the content creators over on Twitter, over on X can just screenshot and throw up on Instagram all of these heinous things about Fat Joe.
Yeah. The other thing, if you want to make a judge hate you, do this. Because they know what you're doing. Like, this is Southern District of New York. They're dealing with, like, some of those complex, like, financial crimes. These judges are.
And did he have the disclaimer at the top, too? I should just pull up the complaint. He did?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
That red disclaimer, like, warning, this contains, like, whatever. which
And
is
it's like
not meant for a judge to be warned about.
SDNY is where they deal with murder cases and like the worst crimes, and the most complex crimes, and none of those complaints are going to be anywhere near this long.
I say hey to
So you're like,
Mel. I also want to say hey to Mel popping in.
yeah, like you're making them read a 775 paragraph complaint.
Hold on, let me get Mel's link, you guys. You guys hear me talk about Millionaire Mel all the time, and I often say sometimes hard. And she's been streaming later in the evenings, so like
She
now
has,
usually. But with trial watches, sometimes it's hard to if we're doing them during the day. It's hard
yeah,
for us to line up. So
I look at
sometimes
your
I'll
list as
shout her
well.
out, but can't read direct. But
Yeah,
as always, guys, make sure you go check out Millionaire Mel. Thanks for becoming Green Mel.
yeah, I like her
And
rewatches. I listen to
her
those all the time.
reactions are funny.
Yeah.
So there's the link in the chat for Mel, you guys. Make sure you check her out. Also, just a reminder, I know Tay Biz had his Antonio Brown stream today, and this is overlapping with when he was starting that, because I was planning to go and watch that, but I just cannot do this stream this weekend because I'm going to be sitting in Ian Runkle's chat for 24 hours with his charity stream. So it was either today or not at all. But also shout out to Tay Biz. I'm sure Mel, if she's not live, she will be live covering the Devin Michaels trial. So like if I try to describe that case, guys, it's like a laundry list. It's like porn star, beheading, boyfriend, married to stepson. It's just a lot. It's just a lot going on. But Mel has been covering that. So if you want to find out what's going on or just want to be just as lost and confused, that's a great place to go check it out. Flesh of the Gods has also been doing rewatches of those cases, I think earlier on in the day if you're looking for a place to watch, and Broken Baker. That case has gotten a lot of like all my favorite creators that react to trials are getting into that case because it's ludicrous. It's just a lot. It's just a lot going on. So there's all that.
Yeah, man.
Oh, and she just made 10K followers. So yes, big shout out to Mel. When that happens, you guys hop over to Mel's channel and drop some love in her chat. Hit her like button because that's awesome. That is a nice milestone. Because when you reach like an extra digit, the way your follower count displays, it like changes the way it spans. So it like condenses down and gives you the double digit with the K after it. So
look
definitely
at you flexing
awesome.
on us with the double digits after the K. I see how it is.
No, it's not Florida. The Devin Michaels case, yeah, it's Vegas. It's a Vegas case, which I mean,
that's
probably also makes sense. So, if it's not Florida, it's probably Vegas. So
yeah, you know what's funny? So the federal courthouse in Vegas, it's in Vegas, but it's like not on the strip. It's like so far away that it's only like the courthouse and the hotel that all the lawyers go to. So lawyers hate, like all the Southern California lawyers that I know hate going there because it's like the most out of the way place you could possibly go to. It's like, do you drive? Do you fly? It's just in the desert. There's just an island of judges in the desert.
Was it a Nevada courthouse that I gotta make sure I distinguish the two attorneys. Busby. He like posted an Instagram. Tony Busby. Because my brain, because they both have a T and then a B. So when I talk about Tyrone Blackburn, sometimes I want to say Tyrone Busby. And like I like switch the first and last names for the two of them. Because in my head, the initials are the same.
Yeah.
But there was like a courthouse, and I think it was supposed to be a Nevada courthouse. But Tony Busby posted an Instagram post with a picture of a courthouse, and then the Instagram caption was like, I'm proud to announce my client, we filed this case today. I don't even remember what case it was for. But then when I like shared the news about that over on X, another attorney wrote and was like, that's actually this courthouse. And like the county name was the same, or the courthouse name was the same, but Busby used a picture of a courthouse with the same name from a different state.
I remember that now.
Yeah, and I think it was supposed to be some Nevada courthouse. I think it was the Shannon Sharp stuff. I think it was Shannon Sharp's case.
Oh yeah.
And Gabriella Zuniga, because I think that was filed in Nevada. I think that's what it was. So, yeah. So if it's might as well just use a picture of a courthouse anywhere and say it's Nevada or Florida. Um, and then also, thank you. I see this too before we get back into this reading. Thank you for the super sticker, Amy E. I'm late to seeing this. I missed it when you sent it, but big thank you. And thanks for hanging out with us tonight. And then James Phipps, thanks for becoming green. Thank you, thank you.
Hey, James.
Yeah, James is like, oh, we've got 68 pages to read. I'm in. So, I don't remember where we were. Numerous inherent inconsistencies, impossible. I think we were just looking at this case law.
Yeah.
So they can't frame a response. The complaint also improperly engages in group pleading by failing to specify which defendants are subject to each count or the specific allegations underlying those claims. We get a citation here that defendants engaged in deliberate tax fraud schemes. So it's just plural, not distinguished, by submitting intentionally inflated and fraudulent income reports.
Wait.
Another example.
Okay. You're committing tax fraud by saying you have more income? That's never mind. It's usually the other way.
It's usually not how it works and not why you would launder, because remember, they're also accused in the complaint. One of the accusations is the laundering as well.
Yeah, so they're reporting the laundered money to the IRS, and they're reporting even more than exists. So they're laundering money to pay more taxes.
You're doing it wrong. You're doing it wrong. Not legal advice, but I don't think that's the way to do it.
I should be a fraud consultant. I swear to God, it'd be so much easier. Like, I could do what Tyrone Blackburn does. You know how easy that would be? I could be a better Tyrone Blackburn.
It's a cool name.
It's a great name.
Going to waste.
Yeah, it's a shame that he chose those pictures for his website.
With the tight suit.
Yeah, the plaid suit with the high school prom photos. Yeah.
Yeah, Colonel Audit says, who did what? Kind of important, I think. I think it's obscured and vague by design.
Yeah.
Because they expected the response from at least one of the parties to be as facially incoherent in response, and maybe that would give them something to work with. I don't know what they were hoping for. I just don't know.
Yeah, there's
a lot of
litigation of group pleading in the Blake Lively case, which I'm not going to talk about because I don't want to get yelled at. But that was litigated extensively.
Well, and there was also like all of the like parties coming in and litigating for themselves or with counsel, but maybe not like quite the big guns as counsel. So a million different waves of action, which I could not follow after like 1 week. I tried. It was too much. It was too much and not enough on my radar to like make it a priority to keep up with compared to other things. But there's plenty of coverage for it. Defendants intentionally. Some of the what?
Some of it's even accurate.
Yeah. Well, I think also that's another case where you're stuck in, and it's in like the filing stage for the most part, but when there are hearings, they're not televised either, which I just put cameras in federal courtrooms. Jesus. Like, just let people see what's being argued and what materializes, because sometimes that's better than trying to a 1-sentence report on what happened at a 2-hour hearing. Yeah, not fun. We have other examples. So we're alleging that conditions deliberately crafted and maintained by defendants to extract labor. Defendants intentionally withheld credit, royalties, back-end profits, and publishing interest. But how can they use that as leverage if you didn't know about it? Because he says in his complaint that he found out years later, after he stopped working, that there was a stipend allocated for that type of role. So how is that being used as leverage and to extract labor from you if you weren't made aware of it? Because the leverage would be, if you don't do this, I'm going to keep this amount of money away from you.
Yeah. And like he was paid, just not as much as he wanted.
And not as much as he wanted a decade later.
Yeah, true.
Defendants instructed plaintiff's accountant. This is a quote. Another example. So, quote, defendants instructed plaintiff's accountant to fabricate wage statements and inflate W-2s submitted to the IRS.
And he did he do it? Because that would be fraud.
There should absolutely be a record of this.
Yeah.
Because the W-2s have to be sent back out to the party for tax filings for the individual.
Yeah.
And why would you fabricate wage statements to inflate the statements? Because you as the employer, which this would not be, this is
Payroll
why
tax
you
and all
need to
that.
specify, because some of the claims are Fat Joe's doing certain things, but when you say defendants, you should assume that the person handling any type of accounting would be through the parent, the royalty companies, the
Yeah.
record label. This wouldn't be Fat Joe handling this. Yeah, so such group pleadings deprive each defendant of fair notice and is also sufficient grounds for dismissal, because how do you appropriately respond to that? Except for a blanket like, this is not, we didn't engage in this. What else do we got? So Dixon fails to state a plausible or timely claim. So, I was going to skip this, but there might be something spicy in here. So the TVPA is designed to combat serious criminal conduct, sex trafficking, and forced labor, and provides a civil remedy only where a plaintiff can plausibly allege knowing participation in these crimes. Though Dixon does not clearly state who he believes committed these trafficking crimes, he appears to base his civil claim on purported criminal violations by Cartagena only, and venture participation by the other moving defendants. Dixon's TVPA claim, however, is both time-barred and fundamentally deficient. It is built on a foundation of empty, conclusory buzzwords like forced, required, compelled, and coerced, with virtually no concrete facts, actionable conduct, dates, or details that would support a TVPA violation. The claim should be dismissed in its entirety. And then also TVPA is time-barred because it's 10 years outside.
Yeah.
Next, Dixon fails to state a plausible sex trafficking violation. So even if these things weren't issues, where's the actual violation? So he doesn't plead the elements of the claim. He lacks standing because he's not the victim of a trafficking act, Dixon himself. To show he was a victim of sex trafficking, Dixon must allege he was recruited, enticed, harbored, transported, provided, obtained, maintained, patronized, or solicited to engage a commercial sex act, and Dixon fails to do so. Dixon's attempts to plead around these defects is futile. He alleges that engaging in sex was directly tied to his job retention, income access, and travel home. These allegations, however, are insufficient to plead that the purported sex acts involved contemplated the exchange of anything of value. Well, quite the opposite. If you're saying that, you didn't get he's saying that he's like suing for being compensated for things he's alleging are violations of TVPA, but then he's also suing for saying he wasn't compensated. So it's also contradictory.
Yeah.
So, and then they cite here, this is probably worth it. This is an SDNY case. Do you know what CF stands for, Jim?
Yeah,
it's abbreviated.
oh my goodness. It's kind of like a comparison. It's like indirect support. Like I can't remember what it stands for.
Like, so the case caption would be Moreira v. Mass, and the case caption wouldn't include CF, but they're noting that this case has maybe part of it that supports what we're arguing here.
Yeah, it's like C or C also, or it's just an introductory signal. It's not part of the case name.
Not part of okay. There we go.
I never used that one. I can't remember what it is.
But in that case, dismissing TVPA claim where plaintiff alleged that, quote, she was deprived of future employment, received insufficient support, and felt pressured to work because complaint was otherwise devoid of facts suggesting defendant propositioned her for sex in exchange for something of value.
Okay, I was right. It's indirect support, like by comparison. So it's like a similar case that's not directly on point, and you're using it to compare to the current situation.
So it's a quick way to shortcut to the court that we're not saying that this is like an exact parallel. Yeah. So don't think we're misrepresenting something to you. We just want to make this one point. And then next, so Dixon fails to state a claim under the sex trafficking statute. Dixon must plausibly allege that the moving defendants A, recruited, enticed, harbored, solicited. B, knowingly or recklessly disregarded that coercion would be used. And C, to cause the person to engage in a commercial sex act. The complaint fails to plausibly state these elements. And again, like, even where some mention is made in certain places, it's not Dixon. Like, he doesn't make a direct claim against Torres, Jaspitra, Moreira, Sneaker Addict, or Slaint because Dixon does not allege that they recruited or did any of these things, let alone that they did so with knowledge that the coercion would be used to cause Dixon to engage in a commercial sex act. So this is kind of an example where, you know, if there's enough on its face to bring it against one defendant, probably dismiss with the availability of refiling the claim with a sufficient pleading, rather than necessarily being a dismissal with prejudice. Or it would be dismissed perhaps against these parties, but without prejudice to Cartagena if they want to correct and properly allege the other elements. But at the very least, you've got to come back and identify who the heck you're talking about. So they have a footnote. It says, as noted, Dixon fails to state a claim for venture liability. So we just threw out venture liability in there, but we don't give anything to support that. Is that surprising to anyone? Probably not. We cite here Jamal F. Rashid. Oh, CC v. Jamal F. Rashid. See, I'm ignoring this part now. The first element of direct violer perpetrator liability is not shown where complaint is devoid of any allegation that defendants knowingly recruited, enticed, harbored, transported, provided, obtained, or maintained the plaintiff. So, yeah, elements not shown if you don't allege these specific things. Second, Dixon does not plausibly plead that Cartagena used coercion to cause Dixon to engage in a commercial sex act. The TVPA defines coercion as threats of serious harm to or physical restraint against any person. B, any scheme, plan, or pattern intended to cause a person to believe that failure to perform an act would result in serious harm to or physical restraint against any person. Or C, the abuse or threatened abuse of law or the legal process. Well, you know where I think we abused the legal process? We made a threatened abuse.
Yeah.
The mention of Homeland Security meetings. Dixon attempts to articulate threats of serious harm, but his allegations are few, far between, internally inconsistent, and ultimately futile. For harm to constitute serious harm, it must be sufficiently serious under all the surrounding circumstances to compel a reasonable person. This is doing a lot of heavy lifting. Compel a reasonable person of the same background and in the same circumstances to perform or to continue performing the coerced act. The complaint only contains a handful of bare allegations that threats of harm were used to compel Dixon to engage in a sex act, and these are insufficient to state a claim. And notice here, this is actually, we're quoting 18 USC 159E5. It's not like we're just pulling a little quote from some opinion in some case somewhere. This is actually codified. So they give examples. Dixon alleges, parentheses without elaboration, that Cartagena required or directed him to engage in sex acts, or that Cartagena forced him to engage in such acts, and these rudimentary and conclusory allegations are insufficient to state a claim. Now we're getting case law. So we've got Levin, and it might not be exactly parallel. Levin v. Sarah Lawrence College? Is that a college?
Which one?
Why is this abbreviated? Collective?
College.
Okay, so it is college. Okay. So this is a case against a college. Plaintiff's allegations that they were subjected to sexual assault and forced to perform sex acts are mere conclusory statements unsupported by factual allegations. We've got another here. Plaintiff allegations that defendant knew she would be required to perform sex acts with men whom she recruited are largely conclusory. Wait, what? So in this case, a plaintiff tried to sue somebody, but she was doing the recruiting?
The defendant knew she would be...
Or maybe she applies to the defendants. I'm going to get invested in a whole nother case just to figure out this.
I have a guess on what it is, but I don't want to... I don't want to be wrong.
Well, Dixon also, and I mean, again, my doubts on this are because it seems like this case was dismissed. So it kind of
Yeah.
would make sense if this was like it's not reasonable.
Yeah.
Dixon also vaguely alludes to an incident where Cartagena allegedly canceled Dixon's flight after Dixon did not participate in a sexual encounter. Did not. Yet, for a threat of serious harm to have caused Dixon to engage in a sex act, logically, the threat must have preceded the sex act. Oh, and even if it did, threats of abandonment do not constitute threats of serious harm, absent some showing that the person's circumstances or background place them in a position of vulnerability. All right, so this case here says finding allegations of serious harm are insufficient where based inter alia on a threat to abandon plaintiff in a situation that would leave her all but helpless. This is especially true here, considering Dixon's background. A reasonable person with years of experience handling domestic and international tours and providing logistical support would not view a canceled flight as a serious harm, the threat of which would cause that person to engage in a sex act. Again, before, not after. Dixon also vaguely alleges that at some point, Cartagena reinforced the consequences of disloyalty or challenging his authority by stating that no one exits Terror Squad in one piece. So I think this is like the interesting thing, right? We get like the spicy photos included in the complaint. It looks so vicious and scary. Fat Joe is a mob leader. But these vague threats are not enough because the complaint provides no indication of the time, place, or circumstances at issue. And I'd
Yeah.
argue something separate here is that if there's a standing issue, because it's not like Dixon was alleging that I'm just scared because he's a threatening person. He's saying that he was scared back then because he had the knowledge back then. So you should have a more intimate narrowing of the time frame.
Yeah.
If you're making a pleading today that contemporaneously you were intimidated because you already knew, you should have a better wherewithal, a better whereabouts in time this thing took place if you were already scared, let's say back in supposedly in like 2012 or something. You should be able to say it was around 2012. But you don't because you're thinking of it now and you're retrofitting a complaint to it.
Yeah.
So, oh, okay. So Adventurer says it's an abbreviation for confer. So comparing one case to another. So that's why it's CF. So there we go. Notably, Dixon does not tie this alleged statement to any threats of serious harm if he did not engage in commercial sex acts. Yeah, why is that notable?
It's kind of
What?
the whole thing. It's the whole idea.
Well, I mean, but it goes back to Judge Coate. Was it Judge Coate was her name?
Yeah.
Who said it seems like you might be doing this for the media attention. So you're putting spicy in there to make him look bad. So someone goes, "Oh, Fat Joe bad. Give Dixon what he wants." But rather, Dixon pleads that the statement was made in reference to others who had fallen out of favor, disloyalty, and leaving. No reasonable person who served as a bodyguard and handler responsible for security would be threatened into engaging in commercial sex by vague and purportedly routine statements that no one exits Terror Squad in one piece. Finally, Dixon's claims of coercion were undercut by his other allegations. Because not for nothing, but if one of the victims that Blackburn said, "Hey, we're going to meet at Homeland Security. We're going to bring the accusers with us. We're going to sit there and we're going to sort this out." Those victims that would have standing if what Dixon is alleging happened to them is true, they could come at the security for not protecting them. They could come after Dixon.
Yeah, for
They
sure.
could have
That's the same
standing
thing.
to bring a claim against Dixon.
Yeah.
So, do we really want to go down that road? I mean, maybe we didn't think about it. Maybe we didn't think about that. Finally, Dixon's claims of coercion are undercut by his other allegations. He claimed that's the downside of writing 775 paragraphs. He claims he had disobeyed Cartagena's other demands, including a purported instruction for him to pound out McMain on site. Quote, and it says compare. So take pound out McMain on site and compare it with this. Plaintiff did not carry out the assault. And it is simply implausible that Dixon engaged in, as he claims, over 4,000 sexual acts over 16 years, equating to nearly 5 sex acts per week. Jeez. Is this supposed to be like a brag? Did
Kind
he
of
put
seems
this
like it.
in here as like a like a high five?
I wonder if you need like. It feels like you'd have a lot of examples if you had 4,000 instances to choose from.
Like, and this wasn't like so long ago that you wouldn't have text messages or something. Like, that's a lot.
I want to make fun of courts for not having documents from 2010.
Yeah, you're
But I'm
right.
not going to.
It happens.
Actually, I guess I just did, but
Yeah, 775 paragraphs. It was like 157 pages, I think,
yeah.
was the page count. Was the complaint. Dixon's complaint was 157 pages.
And there are like
Uh,
subparagraphs too.
that don't get counted in the numbers.
I think so. Maybe they counted them. I don't know, but
It would also be a question of, was it formatted the way you would expect it to be formatted anyway?
yeah.
So an educated guess might not apply here.
Yeah.
In short, Dixon does not come close to pleading the control, oppression, and duress in legitimate sex trafficking cases he mentions in his complaint. And you should also have this many other, like, even if you can't find everybody, you would think
Yeah.
you'd actually have other people to come forward. Yeah, so they're giving examples here from different, Ninth Circuit here, forced labor of nanny under threat of deportation, which sounds like a threat to me. Second Circuit, forced prostitution of undocumented aliens under threats of physical violence or deportation. Forced slavery and bondage enforced by beatings. Ew. And pinning of genitalia. Gee, that definitely sounds yikes. Foreign nursing home aides threatened with deportation and a $25,000 termination fee and confession of judgment. Pyramid sex cults enforced by collateral of explicit videos. So, like, blackmail will expose you.
Nexium.
Personal. Oh, that is Nexium?
Yeah, it's Keith Raniere. Raniere?
Oh. I knew someone unrelated that her last name was pronounced as Raniere. So I would say Raniere. But who knows?
I don't want to besmirch his good name.
Raniere. But yeah, I mean that seems, yeah.
Pyramid
Seems like
sex
what I
cult.
remember.
That's not something you see every day.
Well, and it also, like, unfortunately, it makes me picture the act as like a huge. And I'm like, no, it means like pyramid organizational structure of the cult itself, not the individuals in a certain physical
I understand.
formation. Like, this is gym class who wants to be on the top of the pyramid, the human pyramid. All of that to say that Dixon fails to state a claim. Dixon fails to state a plausible forced labor violation. I think a lot of this is going to be, they're not specifying the specific other defendants also failed here. We also fail again to state a claim for the venture liability. Let's see. Dixon merely alleges that he tried to leave on multiple occasions and that Cartagena used coercive tactics and threats to convince him to stay. But these allegations are insufficient because where's the when, how, or what?
That's so crazy. It's 775 paragraphs and
no examples.
yeah.
Not one.
Stillwell v. Fashion Nova.
Did Shannon sue Fashion Nova? Oh, man. Dang. What do they quote it as, like, forced labor? Okay, so forced labor claim dismissed where plaintiff obviously stopped working for the defendant. Yeah, so if you're like, peace, I'm out, you can't just come back later and bring a claim. Oh, there's a place called Funk Dairy. So Funk Dairy was truly, that sounds not good. I wouldn't want my dairy to be funky. If Funk Dairy was truly forcing plaintiffs to perform labor, they would not have allowed 3 plaintiffs to quit nor terminated 3 plaintiffs themselves.
That's a good argument.
Yeah, because now you're supposed to be stuck with us. No one leaves Terror Squad alive or in one piece or whatever. So it is not even clear that the tactics and threats Cartagena employed had anything to do with Dixon's attempts to leave his employment. For example, Dixon alleges that Cartagena frequently and repeatedly told Dixon, that nobody leaves Terror Squad in one piece. Not that Cartagena said this in response to Dixon's attempts to stop working with Cartagena. Dixon's forced labor claim is also internally inconsistent. I feel like every argument,
Yeah.
they're saying it's internally inconsistent. Again, a problem when you write 775 paragraphs.
Yeah.
At one point, Dixon asserts that he would not have continued writing, performing, or serving Cartagena had he known that no LODs would be issued and that he would be excluded from all, that's the letters of something
Yeah.
from earlier, distribution maybe,
Yeah.
all revenue streams connected to his work. Yet Dixon then contends that his employment continued because he was compelled or forced to work against his will, not because he was under the false assumption that LODs would be issued or that he would participate in revenue streams. And again, he said that he found out about this through an associate later, after the fact. Cartagena's alleged threat to abandon Dixon is moreover wholly inconsistent with the notion that Dixon was forced to stay to work for Cartagena. That to me is where we get to the reasonable person. This is not a reasonable claim. Oh, they're going to say it. It is implausible that a reasonable adult male with a decade experience as a bodyguard in personal security would feel compelled to continue performing labor services under these circumstances. No such individual would interpret Cartagena's alleged frequent comments as a threat of harm simply for quitting or retiring, particularly where many individuals have left Terror Squad seemingly without incident.
Yeah.
Likewise, no such individual would feel compelled to continue working merely because he was told that his refusal could lead to his flights being canceled. Dixon could have stopped working for Cartagena at any point while he was in the United States, and his concern about being left in another country would never have been materialized. They don't plead venture liability. And that was a major part of like Alex Spiro. So I'm sure that argument, how long is this? Yeah, this is short, but Alex Spiro hammered into like, what is this like where Rock Nation supposedly knew of and benefited from all of this. So that's much more fleshed out by Spiro's motion to dismiss on behalf of Rock Nation. Should be linked in the dry folder in the YouTube description. What do we got? Dixon not sufficiently. How many times is sufficient? Any word? 25. 25 times. I expected more, actually.
Yeah, fair.
So they don't even plead that the defendants knowingly benefited or attempted to or conspired to benefit from participation in adventure. So the pleading's deficient. Dixon fails to state a plausible or timely claim under the RICO Act. I love this. We start with a quote here from Pooh v. Charles Greenthal Management Corporation from 2010. The civil provisions of RICO are the most misused statutes in the federal corpus of law. I'm sure, I know, this channel we got together for a criminal application, a state application of criminal RICO. Yeah. But I think chat can probably say, yeah, probably, that the civil provisions are most misused. Because litigants often try to transform garden variety fraud or breach of contract cases into RICO claims. So this is actually, again, I think we're mirroring some of this sentiment, maybe not the direct language, in our favorite header from above. We turned a contract case into the sprawling thing. Yeah, sure. The mere assertion of a RICO claim has an almost inevitable stigmatizing effect on those named as defendants, and courts therefore strive to flush out frivolous RICO allegations at an early stage of the litigation. And again, this is SDNY. And, we're not going to go through all this stuff, you guys. If you want to read it, it is linked. But essentially, the argument here is that the complaint does not come close to stating a sustainable RICO claim. Dixon's RICO claim is time-barred, he lacks standing to sue, and he fails to plead that any defendant committed 2 or more acts constituting a pattern of racketeering activity. So, 3.
It's just like all of the things. It's like all of these are just all of them.
Yeah, so basically, Reading this alone gives us an understanding of what's required to bring a RICO claim. You got to have the statute of limitations, you have to have standing, and you have to plead the elements that there's 2 or more acts that establish the pattern. So we skipped all of the what's required and got it anyway. And they go through it one by one here. So time barred, lacking standing.
Yep.
Most of Dixon's alleged injuries are not cognizable under RICO. Yeah, this isn't like a RICO thing. So let's look at the examples. So he alleges in the complaint, purports to allege.
I enjoy that.
Let me read it right. Paragraph 468 of the complaint purports to allege 6 RICO injuries. 1, quote, permanent erasure of plaintiff's authorship and performance credits, resulting in professional blacklisting and reputational damages across the music industry. So how does that become RICO if you're not stating that multiple people are doing this?
Yeah. And I mean, kind of like so not paying the performance fees. He's saying that Fat Joe basically took the money that was allocated, but that means like that Rock Nation, for example, did pay out all the money they were obligated to pay out. They didn't save any money. So that would just be
it's
one person
internally inconsistent again.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. See, it's like we read one quote and there's 2 issues from the one thing.
Yeah.
So he was credited. Like, which is it? The next purportedly alleged RICO injury is to emotional trauma and psychological distress. I don't know if you want to allege that because you might be. Oh my God. Imagine having to analyze this guy to establish you've experienced.
Yeah.
3 credible threats to plaintiff's life, but we didn't include the examples. We just said, like, unspecifically, no one leaves Terror Squad in one piece.
Yeah. And that gets to the 5-year thing too. Like, you had credible threats, but
you're still alive.
Years ago?
You're still alive and we're goading. You were pushing buttons. You were writing in all caps through text messages and DMs on Instagram and captions. What would you watch a criminal case and someone's accused of threatening somebody? We saw it a little bit with Alicia Andrews, where the prosecution was like, does that sound like something somebody would say who was scared of the other person? So if you didn't see those examples in the initial complaint, there's tons of screenshots of different social media posts and correspondence where even though it's on paper, to me, it comes off like somebody when you type and you're yelling while you type, like with the caps and emojis. 5 years have gone by and you're poking the bear. We've got out-of-pocket costs for legal counsel, private security, and ongoing care. What?
Yeah, I mean, if anything, that would be duplicative of 2.
Yeah, but that's making this a stronger claim. And if you're going to claim something egregious where you require ongoing care, I'm going to ask you, well, what did you have from a professional that says, look, this is my prescription. I need you to go get this cognitive behavioral therapy. I need you to go do these counseling. I need you to get these things. What is it? Because now you're stating it yourself.
Yeah.
So what is it? This to me is something that you include when you expect someone not to fight back. 5, systemic theft of plaintiff's royalty entitlements. 6, underpayment of wages and touring compensation. And then we move on to argument. So the first 4 of these injuries, even if true, do not confer standing. Paragraph 761 through 773 also allege. Why are we alleging at the end of the complaint? So there's only 2.
Weird. Didn't they mess up the paragraphs at the
I
end.
think that is where, yeah, and there's like the weird mention of Desiree in the middle of that.
Yeah, that was the copy and paste, I think.
Okay, so that makes sense why this is just randomly. I think it was like under the conclusion heading, and there's all these
Yeah.
paragraphs that
Yeah,
just
yeah, yeah.
insert new things.
That's right. Yeah, they put like the damages under conclusion. That's right. It was something like that.
Oh man. So yeah, so paragraph 76 through 773 also allege purported injury to plaintiff, including what Dixon labels as economic losses, reputational harm, physical and psychological harm, and out-of-pocket expenditures. This is just layering on how much we're going to be asked to demonstrate.
Yeah.
Because physical harm that required out-of-pocket expenditures. Did you get surgery? Did you get stitches? Dixon's alleged injuries of professional blacklisting and reputational harm, emotional and psychological trauma, threats of physical harm, and physical and psychological harm are not cognizable because they are personal or emotional harms that are not compensable under RICO. So
No.
bring like a personal injury suit.
Yeah.
But again, I think the idea was let's throw Rock Nation in this. Like, let's get all of the fanfare whenever there's scandal surrounding Rock Nation or anyone that's signed to Rock Nation. Let's amplify this by naming them as a party. Because I do not think there's a meritorious claim that they are belonging as a party here. At least it's not pled that way. It's not sufficiently pled.
Yeah.
Um,
It just doesn't make sense, like for a lot of reasons.
I like that this has an ellipsis. The way it reads says, quote, blacklisting is not a RICO violation.
Yeah.
That's from Guys v. Weinstein, an SDNY case over here.
Weinstein.
Too many, too many. Wait, was that actually a Harvey Weinstein, though, if it's dealing with blacklisting? Maybe it was. Maybe it
Oh,
was
yeah, it
a
probably was.
civil, it could have been a civil claim.
That makes sense.
Weinstein Co-Holdings, is that,
I think it
I don't
is.
know.
Because one of his holding companies was like prominently involved because all the film rights were held in the holdco. I don't know for sure, but it would make sense.
And I could see someone saying, like,
Yeah,
blacklisted from Hollywood.
for sure.
Um, but yeah, so not the proper cause of action is not to say there was a RICO violation. Um, the loss of plaintiff's reputation and resulting inability to gain future employment. Oh, this is a citation from Mackin v. Auberger. The loss of plaintiff's reputation and resulting inability to gain future employment are personal injuries and are not compensable under RICO. So yeah, wrong avenue to bring these claims. RICO does not provide recovery for physical and emotional injuries. Dixon's alleged out-of-pocket expenditures and costs for legal counsel, private security, and care, meanwhile, are not yet ripe and are therefore too speculative and vague to sustain a claim. Lots of examples through different cases here. Next section, any cognizable injury was not proximately caused by a predicate act. The only concrete injuries Dixon alleges that are arguably tied to his business or property are the purported theft of and exclusion from royalty entitlements, back-end publishing income, and licensing revenue, derived from songs Dixon purportedly co-authored, or on, do we need to see how many times purportedly is mentioned? Let's do purport. 71.
That's a good word.
They're consistent in saying we're not conceding, no chance, because we know somebody out there is going to read, if this instead read as occurring after the formation of his oral agreement,
Yeah.
somebody out there would go and say, see, he admitted there was an oral agreement. So,
Yeah.
geez. Let's see.
It does get tiring to write like alleged or purported. Like, I don't know why
Because
we do it, but we
it
kind of have
almost
to.
loses its meaning. And in a high
Yeah.
profile case, I think
Oh, yeah.
absolutely. So, in short, Dixon has not tied the activities of Cartagena Enterprise, to the purported royalty or performance fee injuries. So again, no RICO. Dixon fails to plead an enterprise. I think that's like, we don't even have the foundation laid here. Where's the enterprise? So the complaint describes the Cartagena Enterprise as an association in fact enterprise, with each defendant acting as a key member of the enterprise. An association in fact enterprise must have at least 3 structural features: a purpose, relationships among those associated with the enterprise, and longevity sufficient to permit these associates to pursue the enterprise's purpose. Generously construed. So even if we look at this in a way that's like the most forgiving way possible to Dixon, Dixon alleges that the purpose of the Cartagena enterprise is to, quote, enrich defendant Cartagena and his associates while deliberately suppressing, silencing, and erasing plaintiff's substantial creative, artistic, and commercial contributions.
It's another Rock Nation thing. Like, first of all, Rock Nation does not exist to enrich that show. But also, like, they don't care if somebody gets a songwriting credit or not. Like, it's the same to them.
Yeah, it's business to get the product produced and out.
Yeah.
So, and I would also say the other issue here is we can't just decide there's an enterprise in 2025 that we now have a beef with and just say that this enterprise today, these parties and their associations today, to which Dixon would no longer be a part of because he stopped working for them for Fat Joe in 2020. It really should be that the enterprise was in play and in practice and doing these things then.
Yeah.
Not just, I found out now I'm being denied.
Yeah. It's not because he is an associate of that show at all. Like you
said.
At
the time up contemporaneously. Like, he would be part of this enterprise.
Yeah.
So, you know, things that aren't going to make sense to me, even if I try to make them make sense. He's incidentally helping us understand RICO, like, by showing us how it doesn't work.
Yeah.
All right, wait. So there's okay. So enriching while silencing and suppressing his contributions. Even assuming that this bare bones description is adequate, Dixon plainly fails to plead that the various enterprise members had a relationship with anybody other than Cartagena, or that they were involved in the enterprise for a sufficient duration. Yeah, so, and that's why we're calling it the Cartagena enterprise.
Yeah.
It's Cartagena's big and scary, and we're making it an enterprise by saying other people, vaguely. Amy, thanks for becoming green. Appreciate you. We've got Dixon fails to plead relationships among those associated. We've got, and that's just, they're going to expound upon that, but we'll take it at the summary. Dixon fails to plead the longevity, so they had to have been participating for this purpose for at least a feasible amount of time. And part of that, they say that Dixon does not even attribute a year to any of the actions of the moving defendants other than Cartagena, rendering it impossible to determine how long the Cartagena enterprise existed and functioned. So the next argument, Dixon fails to show that each enterprise member violated at least 2 acts of racketeering. So you guys know, with RICO, you've got to say that the defendant participated in at least 2 of the predicate acts, and here within a 10-year period. So Dixon just plainly fails to do so. So one of the reasons is many of Dixon's alleged predicate acts do not constitute RICO predicates. Let's see. So Dixon alleges dozens of state law violations that do not constitute RICO predicates. So fraud, tax fraud, and again, there is no criminal prosecution for any of these things involving Fat Joe or any of the other named defendants. Assault and battery, coercion, harassment and stalking, unauthorized practice of law. Well, that's interesting. Other statutes, including witness tampering. God, there's a whole list here. Witness tampering, trafficking, money. So this is why we had all that long table of contents. Criminal use and possession of a weapon, criminal solicitation, menacing. So these are things that Dixon alleged in his complaint as being somehow in and around this RICO violation that the Cartagena enterprise was engaging in. All of these things, all of these different violations of state law.
Yeah. Man, that unauthorized practice of law one is so stupid. Like, at worst, like the worst case scenario is she like forgot to pay her bar dues for like a month because she's like licensed again now. that's like she might get fined or something. That's not like gonna give rise to a criminal charge in any
Yeah,
circumstance.
and I don't think most peers of any attorney would want that to become principle. Like, oh, you forgot to do your continuing education, your CLEs or something. You got to get on that, do that. If you don't, then we'll penalize you. But
Yeah,
like, I don't know. Same thing. Like, I don't want to see people that in New York, in like if you have a parking ticket that goes lapsed or like a pay by plate ticket for tolls, I think that's
yeah,
probably a better example. In New York, they did a lot of red light cameras. So if like someone was driving your car and ran a red light and they flagged a camera, but you didn't know and you didn't get the letter, your license would eventually end up suspended because of that. Same thing with the tolls paid by plate. If you don't get the notice, you're supposed to notify the DMV of an address change, but things happen. And it ultimately will lead to you having a suspended license. And then if you get pulled over with that, now the cops like, your license is suspended and now you're going to get a citation and you got to appear to traffic court to deal with that. It's kind of like, I don't think we should be penalizing people because they missed out. If we know that they're now aware that they need to fix these issues and they fix them, let's make that be water under the bridge.
yeah.
And I would say the same if you miss your CLEs and need to renew, go ahead. Like, as long as you're not abusing and avoiding it for the sake of avoiding it when you know you're behind.
Yeah.
Let's see, we've got what else? Only specific federal statutes. So we've got all these different federal statutes. So second, only specific federal statutes may constitute RICO predicates. Dixon improperly bases many alleged predicate acts on federal statutes. And it's the whole range. It's 4 through 8, 10 through 14, 17 through 20, 22, and 24. So did we get a range up here for the state ones? It's like all of them.
Yeah.
Like many, and it's like everything except one. So almost all are alleged predicate acts that are not recognized predicates, RICO predicates.
Yeah.
So because none of these statutes are included among the racketeering activities specified in Section 1961, Section 1, any purported violation of the same cannot form the basis of Dixon's RICO claim. Like these headers, like headers are supposed to give you just like, what am I about to read you argue in detail about? But my whole feeling, and again, the skimming of the table of contents, is like each heading is another, like, is this serious right now?
Yeah.
Like, we didn't do the basic thing. We didn't do another basic thing. We didn't do another basic thing.
Yeah.
How many pages would it take you to respond to Dixon's complaint?
A lot. I mean, like, so many. Because there's just so much there and there's so much wrong. I don't even want to think about it.
Kerno says, I thought Love did a very good job of showing how not to use RICO. Also true. Also true.
No comment.
Also true. And YP, I'm glad your surgery went well. That's always good news. And no more glasses. That's cool. I'm supposed to wear glasses. I don't. So maybe in a little bit, maybe in a few years, I'll be like, would you recommend the surgery? Because now my eyes can't get by without glasses. But I would imagine if I had glasses on, you'd see like my ring light like the whole time.
Yeah.
Like my webcam has a built-in light around the camera. It's like this big. So, but if I had glasses on, all you'd see was, it'd be a good time. It would look like those Illuminati video effects. Like, remember, like a few years ago, it was a vigilantecitizen.com. And they were all like the write-ups and the analysis of different music videos and how there was like Illuminati symbols in all of them. And they would always point to like the ring lights in the reflections of stuff. I would end up being in like a music label RICO complaint filed by somebody down the line for being on stream reading this with Illuminati symbols in my glasses. Oh, that was a time.
Yeah, if you had a whole massive global conspiracy and the object of the conspiracy was to like put lights into music videos, that would be an interesting use of resources.
When it was like this was all the era, like there was a website that had it, but I would see all of this stuff on Tumblr. So when Tumblr was still, I think Tumblr still exists, but it's not,
Yeah.
it was way more popular
Yeah, it was a thing.
years ago. And that's where I would see all of this stuff broken down. But yeah. So that was a fun time. I miss those times. I'd be reading forever and I'd be like, yeah, that is kind of a fishy coincidence. And then the next thing would be so ridiculous. I'd be like, nope, never mind. Never mind. Um, yeah, so we're not pleading things that we should be pleading. Let's see. Oh. All of this not
It's
sufficient
all the same stuff.
pleadings. Yeah, basically failed to state a claim for certain things. Fails to plead actual attempted and conspiracy to commit murder. We just throw the word murder in there.
50 Cent. Wait, go back up. I saw 50 Cent.
Oh, so
Cartagena
Predicate Act 13 alleges Cartagena engaged in a calculated and premeditated conspiracy to murder rapper 50 Cent. To the extent he purports to allege attempted murder through this bare legal conclusion, Dixon does not make any non-conclusory allegations that Cartagena, quote, did any act toward the commission of such offense. And this was over like 8 paragraphs of writing. Dixon merely claims that he allegedly overheard Cartagena admit to placing a bag on 50. Oh no, it's a 24K, 24 M's. I heard him say he placed a bag on 50 Cent's head and seemed distressed that his plan failed. If this were
Put a bag
true,
on 50's head. Terror Squad rules the world, kid.
has 50 addressed this?
I don't know.
Oh my gosh. He also does not allege any agreement between Cartagena and any other individuals, defeating any conspiracy claim he purports to allege, nor does he allege that any crime was actually committed, and thus cannot rely on accessory after the fact liability. Dixon fails to plead extortion. Dixon's only extortion allegation is that defendant Peter Torres, so Pistol Pete, threatened a third party with future physical harm if he engaged in further collaboration with Cartagena's rivals. So this bare allegation fails to plead a key element of extortion, that the threatening communication was made with the intent to compel money from the victim. Yeah, that isn't really how extortion works. I didn't process that until reading it.
Yeah. It was just like a threat, I guess.
Yeah, like a bare threat. Finally,
Like
Dixon fails to plead forced labor and sex trafficking. Next section, Dixon fails to allege a pattern of racketeering activity.
Yeah, no relatedness. That makes sense.
Well, and there's like a million reasons how. Like,
yeah,
the things that we're saying are the predicate acts or racketeering activity aren't viable predicate acts under RICO. Yeah. So if we clear that out, we'd be left, what was it, like 1? So how do you have a pattern if you reduce it down to one that actually applies under RICO?
Yeah.
Let alone, is it a pattern of who's participating in each of the different things knowingly and purposefully?
No, that's all right. Let me see one.
Did I miss something?
You saw purported. The laundering tax fraud scheme, I'll read, involves different purported IRS, unidentified employees, crimes, tax evasion, money laundering, retaliatory discharge, and purposes than those involved in the Dixon scheme. So yeah, that makes sense. The dissimilarity between the victims, plaintiff, and IRS runs afoul of the related. That's a great quote to have. That's like literally what we're talking about here.
Yeah, okay, so let's read this in full. So the stark dissimilarity between the alleged victims, plaintiff and the IRS, runs afoul of the relatedness requirement. And also, again, so why, if this is the case, why haven't you gone to put any of this on notice or provided something? If you are convinced enough that you can allege that the IRS is the victim of different tax evasion, money laundering, retaliatory discharge, sexual harassment-based crimes, like I don't see how that's an issue. But wouldn't you have one piece of a paper trail to include in your 775 paragraph complaint? Because you mentioned W-2s.
Yeah.
It's like you put the word W-2 in there just to sound like you had documentation. But if there was an issue with the W-2, you could report it, and you could already if it was viable, why wouldn't you have gone and gotten the gears spinning with the IRS?
Yeah, it doesn't even make sense. It would have been like, if you've been like 10, let's not talk about this.
And the IRS, if you really want to hold Cartagena and unidentified employees of Cartagena responsible, going through the IRS would be a way that the IRS could get their wheels spinning. It doesn't matter if this didn't happen this year or last year. The
Yeah.
IRS doesn't care if you evaded taxes in the last, like, did they have a statute of limitations?
I don't know, actually.
Because whenever I hear about IRS and tax evasion, it's usually like 5 years previously. Because it doesn't make sense for you to do it after a year, because you can correct last year's issues the next year when you file your taxes. So it just doesn't make sense that you'd use that time window. But again, we don't have any of that happening here. It just seems like we threw around scary things that other people get accused of doing to puff up and give credibility to the individual claims of Dixon. And again, none of this stuff was included in the correspondence leading up to the April 29th complaint filed by Fat Joe. That was all just, you underpaid fees to my client. And then the second complaint, when those demands weren't met, was, oh, and you had a 5-year relationship with the 16-year-old girl. Oops, the third complaint, the third time we correspond on that, forget the Homeland Security, forget your bedroom behavior. That's just whatever. None of this was included back then.
Yeah.
This all came into play in response to a lawsuit filed against you. Just crazy. Blah, blah, blah. And though the Dixon scheme also involves purported sex crimes, the interstate transportation claim involves different purported victims, unnamed minor women, crimes, transportation, so different crimes and different purposes. So than those involved in the Dixon scheme. Accordingly, Dixon has not alleged relatedness between predicate acts 4 through 14, 16 through 18, and 22 through 24, and the predicates comprising the Dixon scheme, and they should be excluded from the remainder of the RICO analysis. So that would leave us with like half the amount of predicate acts to analyze. Dixon fails to state a plausible or timely claim for fraudulent concealment and fraudulent misrepresentation. And this is for the disclosure, or the failure, the purported failure to disclose that Dixon's per-show compensation was budgeted at approximately $3,000 plus 100 day per diem for a 3-day travel schedule. Jim, this is where you're going to lose your mind, isn't it? Because again, this is the conclusory fact that this budget was not just a generalized budget, a stipend, but rather something that somehow was line itemed as a commitment that the overhead for Fat Joe was saying, hey, allocate this specifically to Terrence Dixon.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just like bad negotiation on what's his face, Dixon's part. Like,
and not even that, but that budget could have been paid out to, there's also no
other people. Yeah,
there could have, some could have been used.
Yeah,
it's just supposed to be the inference that, you know, Dixon was like wage theft. They want to make a scenario where it looks like wage theft, and that's not established. 2, that Dixon's co-authored lyrics and recorded vocals were used in at least 15 commercially released songs. 3, that no PRO registrations, letters of directions, or publishing split sheets were ever submitted on Dixon's behalf. And 4, Cartagena and his controlled entities collected all publishing revenue, licensing income, and streaming royalties generated from Dixon's contributions. This is a huge claim. Cartagena and his controlled entities.
Yeah.
So entities that Cartagena controls.
There's
Dixon's
no way
alleging that Cartagena was supposed to claim, or supposed to notify Dixon we're collecting all of this published revenue, licensing income and streaming royalties generated from your there's no way. Like, oh man. Dixon does not allege any purported concealment by any other moving defendant. So there you go. It's not Cartagena and Rock Nation are that's why we're spelling it out here, that it's his controlled entities that are he's alleging engaged in fraudulent concealment. It wouldn't be his to conceal.
Yeah.
Dixon's fraudulent misrepresentation claim is based on 4 purported materially false statements made by Cartagena that one, Dixon would receive a 15% ownership stake. And we went through this earlier, you guys. The 15% ownership, 15% gross earnings, that Cartagena would issue letters of directions, all of that stuff. This is time barred.
Yep.
They're duplicative of his quasi-contract claims. And third, Dixon has not adequately alleged that Cartagena owed any duty to disclose the purported, quote, facts underlying his concealment claim.
Yeah.
Mere conclusory allegations that Dixon and Cartagena maintained a long-standing, confidential, and quasi-fiduciary relationship marked by trust, collaboration, and personal reliance are insufficient to support such a claim. And why would you argue this if you're also supposed to say that during this time period? This is why there's a disconnect.
Yeah.
They don't know when they want to allege that there's an enterprise that was engaging in all these violations, these sex trafficking things, these coercions of all these other people. Why would you want this to also be true if you're saying that he and his associates were engaging in horrible things?
Yeah. Especially if you're like the head of security, because that means you'd probably be like the dude, right?
The one that would be able to put a stop to it all, the one that would be in charge of making sure it stayed under the rug.
Yes,
The
you're the one
one
that either like makes it happen or the one that like lets it happen. It's like, or the
Oh
one who
my
just does
God.
everything, right? I mean, I would assume so.
We maintain this long-standing, and confidential. We kept it confidential.
I mean, obviously, if you work security for a major recording artist, that means you're part of a RICO conspiracy.
Oh man, just
Maybe he sold merch
crazy.
or something. Oh, I'm so bad.
This is crazy. Fourth, fourth, Dixon does not allege that any purportedly concealed, quote, facts or misrepresentations were material as required by both fraud claims. Dixon has not pled how the fact that his per-show compensation was budgeted at approximately $3,000 plus the per diem for a 3-day travel schedule was material to his decision to work for Cartagena. Because he didn't know about it, so it couldn't be material to his decision.
Yeah.
Like that's in his pleading that he established. He's making the assertion that he did not know about this. So that's off the table. That Dixon performed at Cartagena's concerts for $150 to $250 for over 15 years renders this claim incredible. He would have stopped working for Cartagena earlier had he believed the amount to be insufficient, independently of what Cartagena budgeted for him. Dixon further claims to have known that his lyrics and vocals were used in Cartagena's commercially released songs, and that Cartagena effectively controlled all revenue and royalties generated from Dixon's contributions. And as already noted, Dixon was on inquiry notice that PRO registrations, all of that, were never submitted on plaintiff's behalf, given that Dixon received no royalties.
This had to have taken so long to write. I would love to know how many hours this took. There's just so many individual like points being made. It's not just long, it's dense.
And you've got to make the points in multiple arguments because they were raised not appropriately in the different causes of action in the initial complaint. So you got to address it like 7,000 times.
Yeah.
The fraudulent misrepresentation claim in turn is based entirely on non-actionable forward-looking statements. Fifth, Dixon does not plead reliance, let alone justifiable reliance, as required for both fraud claims. So he's not relying on the misinformation he's getting to make a decision.
Yeah.
Let's see. Sixth, Dixon's allegations come nowhere close to meeting the heightened fraud pleading standard for fraud under Federal Rule Civil Procedure 9b. 9b requires that a complaint must specify the statements the plaintiff contends were fraudulent. Even though we had 157 pages, we didn't get those specifics.
Yeah.
Identify the speaker, state where and when the statements were made, and explain why the statements were fraudulent. So, and remember, we didn't get even though this wouldn't have been the speaker making the statement, it seems like they said earlier in this memo, that the person that supposedly informed Dixon that Fat Joe was getting a $3,000 budget specifically for Dixon.
Yeah.
They didn't name that person, that individual either. So it's like nested within something that can't be identified.
Yeah.
Or isn't properly identified.
Yeah, and it's not even really, that wouldn't even be a fraudulent statement if it's true, which he's saying it is true. So, like, there's just
because it wouldn't be, it'd be fraudulent if that's not actually the correct budget, but it'd be fraudulent for the anything that Dixon would be relying on it for.
Yeah.
It'd be a misrepresentation to the court through these pleadings if that's not correct. Yeah. Although, to be fair, someone could have put that in his ear. But the problem is, again, we got this case quote here. In other words, Rule 9b requires that the plaintiff set forth the who, what, when, where, and how of the alleged fraud. Well, if someone's in your ear saying, you know what, he was budgeted $3,000 for that type of work, what time frame? When did that apply? Because even if that is enough, even though you agreed to get paid $150, $250, whatever it was, you have to specify the range if you're going to try to say that it is some type of fraud or misrepresentation that you have a claim to stake in. When did that period apply? Was it only a budget he was getting and when he was established, like at a level in his career where his shows were producing X amount of whatever, and these are bigger tours where we're filling this many seats, so your budget for this type of tour is set for this? Because to give this wide expanse of 2000 to 20, the 15-year time frame, no way was there a budget allocated for 3,000 just across the board. just because we say so.
I think part of the problem is also that he's not really identifying a fraudulent statement. The $3,000 budget, whoever told that to him, he didn't rely on that to do anything. So that can't be the fraudulent statement. There needs to be some other statement made by Fat Joe or one of his associates that was fraudulent. So I think the $3,000 thing is not even really relevant to a fraud claim.
It's so stupid.
It seems more like it would be a non-statement or a non-disclosure rather than a statement. So it's just kind of muddled.
Ugh. Where were we? We were, okay, this section, Dixon fails to state a plausible claim for unjust enrichment. I'm sure a lot of that's repetitious. Dixon fails to state a plausible claim for constructive trust. And we had a different issue where that wasn't even a cause of action above.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's true. You like show a fraud and then they impose the constructive trust.
Yeah. Okay. And they repeat that here. It's not a cause of action. Only a remedy. Dixon should not be allowed. And again, I'm assuming he has to address this because this was written as a cause of action in the complaint. Yeah. So.
Yeah, I see that mistake all the time. That's not uncommon. People are just confused by it.
Constructive trust.
Definitely wrong.
Well, they kept this short anyway. They just said it's just not a cause of action.
Yeah.
Dixon should not be allowed to replete his fundamentally flawed complaint. So let's read this. I think this is
the important part.
Courts in this district routinely dismiss complaints without leave to amend, whereas here, the quote, allegations describe fantastic or delusional delusional scenarios, and even liberally construed, can only be described as wholly incredible and clearly baseless. So that's coming from Scott v. Harbeck, which might be another one to add to the reading list, you guys. Sure. That's a U.S. district case. Okay, Eastern District of New York. So we're shifting over to EDNY.
Yeah, it's like Brooklyn.
That was. You see Brooklyn?
I think they're in Brooklyn. Like Manhattan. I could be wrong about that.
And that was about a year ago. Scott v. Harbeck. Let's see. They've got Damon Gu and Doe versus Doe. Another EDNY from 2023, dismissing a pro se complaint with, and again, this might as well have been a pro se complaint, with prejudice is fantastical. Because Dixon filed highly implausible claims that are inherently contradictory, plainly time barred, or otherwise non actionable under established precedent, such that the facts cannot be cured by amendment, dismissal with prejudice is warranted. And guys, if this is allowed to continue in part, I feel like this order, if the judge allows the complaint to continue, like they can amend some stuff, that order is still going to have to be hefty. If it's not just a blanket dismiss with prejudice for these reasons, they're
it'll
going
be
to
a
have
long
to
one.
spell out the things that the elements, the parts and pieces that are dismissed with prejudice and cannot be filed, and with prejudice as to which defendant, which party. Like, so that's going to be, that sounds like a pain in the butt for the judge to have to parse out, just to, or their
Yeah.
clerk to,
Yeah.
to
I
go
think I
through.
think there'll be a lot of like, you know, because of X, we need not reach other claims or something like that.
I mean, I would hope. I mean, I think that'll apply per cause of action. Like we
Yeah.
can say one reason why, but not have to address all of the reasons why, which is also hilarious. That would be, even be on the table.
Like the statute of limitations ones, we'll probably see that several times. I
Yeah,
imagine.
yeah. And anything that's statute of limitations, you'd expect, dismiss with prejudice. But
Yeah.
anything that could survive, it seems like has to go entirely.
Yeah.
So maybe there'd be permission to amend and file certain things as a personal injury, but that would be like, you don't re-amend that against these parties. I feel like you
Yeah.
might as well just start a whole new complaint at that point.
Yeah, I don't know how they could amend it. I mean, I think the thing is like usually when you amend it's to add stuff or like add detail,
Or correct, like if
not
you
to like
do,
yeah.
if you fail to allege that you have jurisdiction because someone's a citizen here, we'll fix that,
Yeah,
fix
yeah,
that
yeah.
part, and just properly state the thing that you didn't state correctly, but you're really just correcting the way you wrote it out,
Yeah.
not the underlying issue. Um, but yeah, so we've got Jordan Steve, we've got David Walmuth, plus all of their staff. I'm sure, even though we have these two on the signature line, loud and proud, I'm sure this took more than two people to put together. And we've got Reed Brodsky down here as well, and his firm.
Gibson. Expensive.
Certification. Oh, 16,526 words. So,
How many words are you allowed? That's a lot.
uh, I forget, they got permission.
Okay.
I think that letter was downloadable. I think Jordan sent that letter in. I think I read it. Let me
Yeah.
see. Because certain things like letters like that, I only,
Yeah. It might be 14,000 because that's one you see sometimes.
maybe this one. Oh no, that's a response to a letter. Oh no, this is something different.
Yes.
So it's about sanctions in response to one of the
That sounds right.
letters.
That sounds right.
Um, I don't know, but I mean, they just asked for permission to exceed the
Yeah.
length, and I'm sure they made their argument like, "Hey, this is a 157 page complaint that we're
Yeah.
responding to." And I don't remember if they mentioned that they plan to, condense it down by having multiple
Multiple
defendants join an
times. Yeah.
omnibus response,
Yeah.
but they probably included something like that too. Like,
Yeah.
"Hey, we need
That
more
makes sense.
space, but we're gonna try to condense it the best we can."
Yeah. Yeah.
I do remember seeing a letter like that. It's not worth looking for,
Yeah, that makes sense. For
but
sure.
it's indicated in what we were reading that that the
Oh, that's
limit was
modified. Yeah, yeah.
modified. Yep. So they got permission from the court at that point in time. But guys, that is the hot mess. That is the response to the hot mess, I should say. Because whatever was a hot mess getting through this long 68-page filing
That was
is really a response. It's reaction. It's an equal reaction to what they
yeah.
have to deal with. So
That had been so much work. I can't imagine.
yeah. I mean, a little bit surprised, and I guess I don't know. Do you feel like, so in the initial case, and this is all consolidated now, Terrence Dixon and Tyrone Blackburn are both defendants, and the law firm's a named party as well. But Terrence Dixon is still maybe let me make sure before I let's see. Did he add counsel in? Yeah, no. So there's still Tyrone Blackburn is still representing himself, Dixon, and his law firm in the against the Fat Joe complaint.
That kind of feels like a
So
conflict of interest.
exactly. I don't get how this is even, and there's so much noise going on in the meantime that I don't think that concept has even had to
Haven't
be on
gotten
the
there yet.
table yet. Like,
Yeah.
look at this. But
Yeah,
just
that's
the
definitely a
time.
conflict. That's like a direct, like the most direct possible conflict of interest.
Because there's gonna be issues with what Tyrone Blackburn was saying over the phone and texting. And when you're having a conversation, and the person you're an agent for isn't there on the phone with you. It's not
Yeah,
like you're there to also confer or say like, "Hey, what do you want to do about this?" or "What should I
yeah,
say?"
yeah,
But if Tyrone Blackburn's going to try to say, "Well, I only said those things in to advocate for my client or relying on what my client told me," how do we know different? It just creates a he said, she said.
yeah.
So, but that's going to be interesting to watch that play out and see if that becomes an issue. Again, there's so much other noise here that I just don't think that
There's a
that's
lot.
come to fruition. So, hot mess, you guys. So, thank you guys for tuning in. We also shipped out a bunch of these gifts. So, you guys are ordering some on your own. Let me get back over to the wish list.
I gotta hop off.
Alrighty, we're gonna wind this down. You guys already know I'm gonna get Jim's link and drop it to you guys, but make sure you go and check out his recent layouts of how Fulton
Oh
County
yeah,
and beyond Georgia.
I gotta do another one.
You got to keep going.
I'm doing the first offender 3 times thing now.
Oh God. I mean, if it works out in someone's benefit, so be it.
Seriously.
But it's just proof that they don't check
Yeah.
background reports and all that.
Yep.
So, all right, Jim. Well, thank you
Yeah.
for your expertise in the civil world and all your banter and good commentary. Always a
Man,
pleasure.
that was fun.
You guys, I'll drop his link in the chat in a second. It's also already in the description. But he's also uploaded a bunch of content that's not live. It's like the video on demand. So go to his timeline and check out those videos and get caught up with they're short. They're real short. So get caught up on what you've missed. And Jim, any last words? It sounds like a threat. No one leaves Catnut Williams stream in one piece.
Oh man. Let me see. No, not really. I have a couple of things coming out soon. I'm not sure what exactly, but I don't know what case I want to do videos on next or streams on, but I'll be doing some
Well,
soon.
we'll let the people know when you know.
I will.
All right, get out of
All
here.
right. All right. Bye, everybody.
Okay, bye.
Thanks.
All right, guys. Thank you so much again. Let me drop his link before I start wrapping this up and forget to drop his link, even though I hope you guys are already following Jim at this point in time. And if you're on Replay Crew, that is in the description. Um, and then I just think this is awesome, you guys. We can continue next time we pop live. And again, I've been doing shorter streams where we just do these what in the, and some weird story happens, and it's a shorter little quick live. We get together and chat about some headlines, some crazy case like the sandwich throwing trial. As we do any of those, we'll get a pinned link where we can help somebody that has a list. I think looking for teachers that have lists for their classrooms is a great avenue to pursue. But if you guys have any other ideas or places to go where you can find wish lists, if you guys find any online wish lists for guardian ad litem, so agencies that help do angel gifting for individuals, guardian ad litems typically are helping to foster kids that their parent may no longer be on this earth. The parent may be incarcerated, but they're strained a bit. Their resources are strained, and they have kids that go to school and see all of their peers get all these new things for Christmas. So programs like that where you can help give a kid that's less fortunate or doesn't get to be with their parent still have that moment of joy, feeling like Santa came and remembered they existed for the holiday. And some of these, like the teachers, I don't think it necessarily has to be an explicit Christmas gift giving for kids that don't celebrate. We're giving the whole class a bunch of stuff for you guys to do as a family activity. Here's a board game. It's just all around. Always love to see it. So we'll continue to do those. I think we'll round this off. What do we want to get as another one? I got to refresh this too. Doo, doo, doo. What do we want to get? Let's do one that doesn't have anything bought. We've got Battleship. You guys are funny. Troubles almost completely purchased. Is someone in here buying more Troubles? They only need one more. So if that's not gone, the next time we do a stream, we'll make sure we get that gone. But nobody's bought Battleship. Nobody's done Connect 4. Nobody's done Sorry. I said that with a bit of a Canadian accent there. We have a checkers combo that also has tic-tac-toe built in. Has none purchased yet. So if you guys want to, those who hung out to the end here, if you guys want to take a vote. Monopoly Junior has 0. Yeah, whatever you guys want to vote, we'll knock another one out to end up this stream. So put in the chat what your vote is, and we'll set up a redirect. We'll see who's live right now. It's 8. Oh my gosh. Let's see. Redirects. Okay, so YouTube is showing me. Is this live right now? It is giving me Flesh of the Gods is still live doing Devin Michaels. So we can do that. Also, as a shout out, what else do I see? Recovery Addict is live, but it's just his podcast. I can't read the title to see what their discussion is today, but Recovery Addict is live. Publicly Buzzed is live doing wild police chases. Millionaire Mel is also still live doing Devin Michaels. It says Nick Starrow is live. It says, Your Honor, my client isn't here. And it's a picture of Judge Simpson. So I'm assuming they're doing a rewatch of Judge Simpson's courtroom, but I can't read the rest of the title. So that's who I see live on the back end here. We'll get over to Show Flesh of the Gods some love. It's been a minute since we redirected over there. But Mel, Nick Starrow, they're live as well. And I think let's do a Connect 4. I think that's in the spirit of Rico, connecting 4 things together. I'm going to chip in another purchase. We're going to do a Connect 4 purchase in the spirit of Rico. And we'll round this out. It's a gift. All right, so our Rico themed Connect 4 is going to go out to Mrs. Wiggins here. I also shared her wish list over on X if you want to find it after the stream. But thank you guys for participating in that. I think that's going to be really fun for us to do for the next month and change. And thanks for hanging out today, you guys. See you over at Flesh of the Gods, or I'll be bouncing around a little bit to Mel and Nick as well. So see you guys somewhere. See you guys next time we have something to get live and talk about. Bye, guys. Thanks so much.